Good evening. I'd like to welcome to the Halifax Board of Selectmen this day, Tuesday, January 28th. And the first thing on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you can put on it, please.
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I must inform you that this is being videotaped by Area 58.
And will be broadcast
It will be
on
broadcast on the
community access
community access channels.
and YouTube.
I remember that was.
It's not a big draw on YouTube, I'll tell you. If we
I think
get
it's on the inside of the
people watching
folder.
this, it's a lot.
Look up in the folder, I think
Well, he never wants to see this anymore.
what he says about the inside folder.
Is there anything to be added to the agenda and deleted?
I believe so.
And Gordon, you're up.
Okay. I move the approval of the agenda for January 28th, 2020.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I move to affirm the approval of the following warrants and commitments. Payroll warrant number 64 for $385,264.34. Vendor warrant number 65 for $672.26. Withholding warrant number 66 for $139,972.10. The ambulance commitment for January 6, 2020 to January 12, 2020 for $63,886.21. Ambulance commitment from January 13th, 2020 to January 19th, 2020 for $26,430.86.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to approve the following warrant. Vendor warrant number 67 for $141,353.16.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Moderator, I move to approve payment of the following bill. KP Law PC for five...
Moderator, I've been told.
I'm sorry? Oh, no. Can I do it afterwards?
Yeah.
Okay. I
Just get it together, Tom.
I'm trying to read everything else because we had that meeting earlier and I didn't get my read time.
Okay.
So you're moving the KP Law account?
Yes.
For how much?
I can do that now? $5,434.04.
I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. One abstention.
I abstain. I move Town Hall electricity to National Grid for $1,433.85. I move from the audit line $12,000 to power, for a bill for Powers and Sullivan for the fiscal audit. From the audit line. $42 from the legal ad revolving expense for Express newspapers. That's it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have a 7:05 appointment with Mr. Fabrowski. I think that's the correct pronunciation, right? Fabrowski?
Yeah, that's me. I'll do that, yes, if you can.
And what brings you before us, sir?
We have a vacancy on the planning board.
Why would you want to be on it?
I think the planning board could use me.
And why is that?
Well, I've been on this side of the table, and that side could use a guy that's been on this side of the table. As far as coming up before the planning board for developments, additions, budgeting, I've done all of it. You know, I think it helps.
You see you've done all that, in what capacity? What's your background?
I own a real estate company, construction company, been self-employed since the 80s, so I've done it all.
Have you ever been to any of the meetings?
Oh, yeah. Like I said, I've been to the meetings, and I've been on the side asking, and I've been to all the engineering, and there's so much to it, and, you know, it's kind of hard to go over it in 2 minutes, but in order to get anything passed, you have to go before all the departments, before you even get to the planning. So once you get on the other side of the table, being on the planning board, to know what they had to go through before they got there is educational.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Did I not hear that you were planning to move to Bridgewater? Is that something that's...
No, I lived in Bridgewater.
Oh, okay. I heard, and I'm trying to remember from where, that you were in process, or at least considering selling and moving back to Bridgewater? Is that...
No, I live right here in Halifax.
Okay. Well, I know you're up on Riders Way, but
Yeah.
maybe whoever... I'm trying
No,
to-
I know, there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of coffee shop talk. I own a lot of property in different places, you know, so.
I'm only curious
Yeah.
because if that were to be the case, then, you know, this would...
Right, yeah.
It wouldn't be helpful at this point in time. That's
Well,
all.
if it puts you at ease a little bit, I took primary residence in my own subdivision, so it would take at least 2 years before I'd even
Oh, no,
consider moving.
that's fine.
No, I'm just
I-
saying, just because of the tax purposes, I wouldn't even move for at least 2 years anyways.
You said you're in the real estate business?
Mm-hmm.
Do you do real estate transactions in town, or is that
Oh, yeah, all through Massachusetts, yeah. Yeah. for
by
most
yourself, or
people-
do you have an
No, I
office?
have an office.
Have other agents working for you, that kind of thing?
Correct, yeah. So there's independent agents that work under my brokerage. So I'm the broker, and the broker has agents.
Yeah, no, I understand how it
Yeah.
works. I'm a broker. I get it.
Yeah. So I'm in Massachusetts. I'm right here in Halifax now.
Okay, no, that's fine. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to
And I've been
get
building
a sense of
before
where we
Yeah.
have issues with conflicts of interest here and there. I'm just trying to
Right.
make sure that, you know.
Oh, absolutely. No, I can see that. Yeah.
Have you attended town meeting in Halifax before?
Oh, yeah. I have a subdivision actually still in progress, so that was 2.5 years ago. And I had to go through all the steps to this.
No, I mean town meeting as a resident and voting at town meeting. Have you gone?
Oh, no, I just got my residence here literally like a few months ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? You say that you bring a lot of skills and background into it. What's your opinion on building
As far as building, what are we talking
in the
about?
town of Halifax?
Oh, yeah. Well, the building department itself seems to be working okay. I get along with Bob and what have you, if that's what you mean. But the state keeps changing the rules, so you gotta keep a finger on that. But
I think he was referring, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, as to what your feelings about development are.
yeah, well, I honestly think the more you build, honestly, the better. I think you need to bring it in, lower the taxes, bring the people in. The town, to me, honestly, seems like it's starving. As a business, I've been self-employed my entire life, it seems like it's starving. We need to bring them in. I mean, the only thing, you come into the town, the only time it seems to, starts firing on some cylinders is as you pass the old car wash, which the thing's dilapidated, and you're coming into town. It's like there's nothing happening. But there's no incentives. There's not, why would I come here?
What would the incentives be, though?
Well, we have to sit down and figure it out. But, it's not that I can sit here in 2 minutes and fix it. But I'm just saying is, you gotta work with the people to make it happen, I don't wanna go back in time, but it almost seemed like I felt like I was going uphill, trying to get a subdivision that would bring revenue to the town, and I felt that the question should have been on the other side of the table coming at me when I was presenting it is, what are you building? What's it gonna bring in, not for revenue, but what type of people? What kind of business, is it gonna bring in a businessman? Is it gonna bring in a blue collar, someone picking up the cots at the Walmart? Those, it should have been like, what do you plan on building? How big are the houses? Is it gonna be bedrooms? You know, bedroom communities, is it gonna be condos? Is it, you know, what is it? Instead, it really wasn't presented that way. It was just, do you have your frontage? Do you have your setbacks? Do you have this? You know what I mean? It's, like I said, the town, to me, seems like it's starving. The taxes are high. We don't have a lot to offer. We need to start building. We gotta look at the numbers.
But what type of things do you want to build?
Well, that's where I was going.
Well, you gotta look at, so, well, this would be something I'd have with it amongst the people on the board first. I'd sit and we'd talk about it before I'd sit down and start talking to everyone, especially over the camera. But you know your taxes are higher for your commercial and your industrial, and you don't have any.
So Halifax is actually a flat tax rate, so everyone's taxed the same.
Right.
Okay, so
So
maybe.
that's an incentive.
Okay, that's an incentive for who? For the commercial and industrial, but there's none here.
But so like the biggest issue that the
Right.
town has, and we had somebody come in
Mhm.
3 or 4 years ago, is our distance from the highway.
Right.
So
We're studied.
we're a bedroom community, and we're lucky basically to have the commercial development that we have. If you have ideas on commercial, I think that would be great, but adding more residential will just
Right,
exacerbate
it
the
doesn't,
problem.
yeah, exactly, but I don't see how it's really, to me, it doesn't seem that far from the highway. Because you're 12 minutes from the highway. I can get right down to downtown Plymouth in 15 minutes. You know, when I was building in West Bridgewater, yeah, sure, the highway was right there, but I was also building East Bridgewater, all those, you're only talking 12, not even 12 minutes difference.
Depends on what time of day you're driving.
If you
Right.
get over next to Market Basket at
Yeah,
4
yeah,
o'clock,
you'll be there for
Right.
half
you're
an
gonna be
hour.
35 minutes to get
You
here.
gotta really strain it out, we gotta figure it out, because you follow the money. Walmart, you know what I'm saying, like, a company like Walmart, they're dragging people out of the bedrooms, but Dunkin' Donuts, Walmart, you start getting like Stop and Shop, follow the money, they don't come here unless there's a reason. I know they're dragging the people out of the bedrooms, but still, they don't go to where there's no economy, you know what I'm saying? You gotta figure it out. Because honestly, if I knew the taxes were as high as they were, like you said, it's a flat rate, I wouldn't have built what I'm building.
Well, that's the research you do before you build though, isn't it?
Well, what's happening is the other side, as you head towards the water, either direction, it's getting built out, there's nothing left. So they're coming this way, so it is starting to trickle this way. So if you looked at 2 years ago to now, it's working. So I did do my research and it is working, it is coming this way. But I probably would have went, if I just want to make a quick hit and get out, but it would have just crushed the town, it would have been filling it up with, again, low revenue. You know what I mean? Like, I could just do a bunch of capes, a bunch of ranches, and that's not gonna do anyone any favors. But yeah,
Except people who can only afford ranches and capes.
yeah, well, it's a catch-22. Like I said, gotta figure it out. Gotta figure this out.
Any further questions?
I'm good.
Anything you want to ask of the board?
No, I'm good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, great. Sticking around?
Charlie?
So the process with the planning board members here and the selectmen here is to hold a joint meeting to fill a vacancy. Each person gets one vote. The board could, if it wished to, set up a situation where any of the candidates the board has interviewed, and the planning board have been, you know, whether it's interviews they've had themselves or interviews that they've been here for, could nominate someone. It does require 4 votes out of the 7 because it's a majority of the eligible voters. So 3 votes is not going to do it, 4 votes is needed. I don't know what everybody's pleasure is on how you want to do that, whether you want to do nominations or simply Pam can work through the roll call and each person can vote for somebody, but it may be that you'd rather consolidate the candidates who might receive votes. It's up to you all.
I think, speaking for myself, I'd rather do a nominating thing and kind of keep it a little more condensed. But it's the board's pleasure.
That's fine. We can
And
nominate.
obviously, in the planning board...
Yeah, anybody can nominate
The planning
anyone.
board members obviously could nominate also, yes.
Yeah, it isn't just that.
Okay, so,
Could I make a statement? You know, as the planning board chairman, you know, this is something that we're looking forward to is filling out our board. And I think one of the things that we need to kind of look at is we need to fill it out, and it needs to be somebody that doesn't have an agenda coming on. There's going to be an election in May, and then whoever gets this appointment is going to have to run for it in May. Because they're only filling it out in certain May.
Can I interrupt you for a second? We also have the option of just not voting anybody.
No.
And wait, no, I didn't mean that in a pejorative way. There is an option that we just leave it vacant. It's only a few more months.
Correct.
And then let whoever really is interested in it go through the motions of pulling papers and running for it. I mean, that's an option too.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there.
Because what I was going to say, we'd like to fill the position, but I don't see that we have anything major coming up between now and May. You never know, but it does take a while for things to usually go through the planning board, so I don't see it as something that we necessarily have to mandate right now. But what I was going to say is that if we do appoint somebody, I think it would be great that if we appoint somebody that doesn't have an agenda. You know, I think it's great that
Everybody that we've interviewed has an agenda.
Maybe not.
Excuse me.
Maybe not.
No. Just the way the presentation was made, there's an agenda that starts. An agenda is something that you feel thinks you go a certain direction.
Oh, no, I
Not a
understand.
personal
Everybody has their
agenda, just an
opinion, and
agenda.
everybody has their, but to my point is that, you know, I think it's great that we put this out there and we actually have candidates.
Right, that's
You
unusual.
know, that's like, usually it's like maybe one person would put their name in it. So I think this is a great opportunity to make it aware that, you know, we do have some people that are looking to do something. And I really feel encouraged over that, because the past years, it seems like you don't have anybody that even steps up. I would think that if we were gonna do it, that a nomination would work as well.
That's fine. I was just throwing out options.
Yes?
I was gonna say, where everybody has come out and we've had so much attention to it, would be great to not waste their time and maybe get another point of view on the board from a town member. I think that would be great. You know, a little bit of different point of view would be awesome. And I think that I personally think we should pick somebody that isn't already on a board to promote this from going forward, just so that more people, you know, we just put in the newspaper, the COA needs people, we need more people to come up, and we don't want to deter that by picking somebody that's already involved. That's my opinion of it, like, 'cause I'm encouraged by it too, that so many people have stepped up. I'm pretty shocked, to be honest. So are we nominating?
I think it is a good problem to have, that we have many people coming forward and want to fill a vacancy. So by putting it off until the election, so it's a disadvantage for the board itself. I think we should entertain to have a vote on it, because if I'm coming to serve, we all coming as a public servant is because we have an agenda. Our agenda is to move the city forward. Our agenda to see the city being productive and doing the light in the city, and for our kids, for our grandkids and stuff like that. So if I don't have an agenda, why would I be here, sitting here, or all of us being here, sitting here, because we want to see our city moving forward. So I think it will be more respectful for people who come forward and pick someone, vote on someone, go for the place until May, if you want to go and pull people forward, you're going to support.
It was just an option, that's all.
Yes.
Personally think it's the best option. I'm not ready to vote on it because you might be correct about agendas, but what I've heard here is either positive or negative or somewhere else. It's at least 3 of the individuals that we've interviewed have connections to the planning board in some form or another, or any changes.
Yeah.
And I think that's not a good deal. I'd like to see somebody with fresh thoughts and coming in, hasn't got an agenda, negative or positive, when you change it.
Well, that's kind of why I even brought it up as an option. Everybody who's applied for this job has an agenda.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that agenda is other than service, but clearly, and to your point, everybody's coming here slanted from a direction. Everybody's got an association with somebody else. That's why I even brought it up. My thought process is, you know, it's nice that we have all these people, but everybody's too connected to everybody else, based on my opinion. My opinion. I think it's cleaner, let people pull papers, run for it in 3 or 4 months. I think it's a better approach to this thing. Not that I want to cripple the planning board, but I want to serve the people and let the people decide this, not us. Because everybody comes here slanted, all of us, every single one of us is slanted. And I think that's going to best serve everybody. Well, maybe not you. I see, I mean, Ms. DeCessa, did I pronounce that correctly?
Yep.
I believe you have a working relationship with Mr. Fabrowski in the real estate business. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah.
Okay, so that didn't come forward. This is kind of where I'm going with this. Not that I'm suggesting there's anything inappropriate. I
I didn't
understand.
realize that he was also doing
I
that.
understand. I'm not suggesting there was anything inappropriate. Please believe that.
Right.
I'm just saying that everybody is connected to everybody.
Yeah, but that's the town we live in.
It's a
It's
town.
all
No,
down.
I understand, but not intimate, I don't want to use the word intimate, but more closely related in terms of thought and everything else. That's why I think,
There's a lot of connections within the town and officials and family members and spouses and
I
siblings that all work
understand.
in the
Now,
town.
here's an opportunity to let
You know what I mean?
people run for an election and get elected.
So why even bother
So why-
asking us to come meet with
I
you
know.
guys?
Because
you
that wasn't
selected?
obvious at the beginning, to me anyway. And Mr. Andrews did bring up the fact that everybody
I mean,
has
there's
an
obviously a
agenda.
need to
And
have
if we
somebody on the
want to,
planning board.
I have a strong agenda for this town, absolutely. I have 3 little kids that I have
I
to raise.
understand,
and
I've
make
got an
sure-
agenda for this town, I've been here for 45 years, so
So
don't,
raising
you're
3 kids in
you
this town to
suggest,
make sure that they get through this life and this town stays the way it is respectively
yeah.
is my agenda, is
Yeah.
to help keep the structure of what this town
And
is.
there's a reason
And I
why,
don't believe
there's
it's
a
negative.
reason why it's been kept in a particular way, because people worked hard at it.
Yeah, and I agree with that,
Okay,
because.
I just want to make sure that other,
bringing
I'm
more
not talking about
commercial
myself,
into
I'm
this-
talking about a lot of
Bringing
people.
more commercial, I've heard everybody's opinions on this,
Right.
bringing more commercial into this town
And I
isn't
think that's-
necessarily something that we need. We got vacant commercial buildings all over the place in this town.
Well, that hasn't escaped anybody on this board. You know, we've all tried over the years, we had studies, and we all knew what the conclusion was going to be. We're not located in such a way as to draw people. I mean, we've got O'Reilly Auto Parts coming in. Thankfully, that's coming. Yes.
If I could, just to clarify like a couple things. One, we actually have interest in this. There's 4 people that are willing to volunteer their time. I think it's crazy to miss that opportunity, not take that opportunity. We have people that are interested. We should certainly do that. As far as the direction of the town, everyone should understand that the planning board does not develop the town. We also deal with the proposals that are put in front of us. We don't propose amusement parks or things of this nature, not commercial business. We deal with what people bring to us. People who in town own a piece of property, come to us and say, this is what I'd like to do with that. Is this possible? And we try to work
And
with
they
them.
need the help of the planning board.
But as far
They need
as
to
the
be
direction
educated
of
by
what they want to do with the property, that is not necessarily what the planning board does.
Right.
So those are the 2 things, and I'd like to move forward with the voting process because that's what we're here for right now.
It's my understanding that all of the boards in the town are here to help the townspeople to get
further in life with their homes or whatever their agendas are to pull forward in life in the town. That's what I see it as. We're assisting, we're volunteering our time, we're being elected to be in the town to help the townspeople that don't understand the things that you guys understand.
Absolutely.
That, you know what I mean? So that's really where I feel is what being a member of the board would be. Any of the boards. Building department, Charlie's position, everybody, you guys. So, and it's not, I get what you're saying, it's slanted. There's a lot of intertwined stuff going on. We all know it. Family members and spouses, so on and so forth. Who's willing to put up the time? You know, if somebody volunteers and they don't show up to it, it was a mistake.
Then I think they need to take the time to run for the position.
Right.
Absolutely.
Changes.
Whoever's gonna put the gusto out to do it, definitely. I couldn't agree more.
Then I'm moving that we don't take a vote tonight.
If that needs a second, I'll second it.
You looking for discussion?
And/or vote.
I think that would be, I'll discuss, I think that would be really a detriment to everybody who stepped forward, everyone. Everyone, I think it's a couple of months, it's a trial period, and then if they choose they like it, or maybe they'll find out they won't, and maybe they'll find out they won't and not run, but at least then, they didn't run, get on, and then not like it. I think it's a good trial position for somebody who's new to being on a board. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of reading. It's a lot of upkeep. It's a lot of knowledge. You know, I think that it would be really a deterrent to the town after we have, how many people? 5 or 4 people came up? 5? 4?
4, I believe.
But you see what, I think that would be really sad to let them all go home and be defeated not to get a trial of being on a board when we have been asking since November. And we've been dragging it out, and here we are. And then to just be like, thanks for your time in December and November and now in January. I think some of these, everybody's been out here 2 or 3 times for this. That's kind of defeatist. I think that would be a really a big mistake for the town, for bringing people to come and volunteer. I think that would be sad.
Doesn't change my position.
Do we want to vote, or do we want to ask
Does
for a
that
vote?
mean everybody votes or just the select?
Yeah, everybody. Anything that happens requires 4 people in the affirmative, no matter what the motion is.
Okay, so even in this motion right now? Okay.
Board?
I would vote no.
I would vote yes.
Yes.
No.
My no vote is to not wait.
Right, and that would be 4 votes.
No.
Okay.
Well, I think both Gordon and Amy need to be recorded. I don't know if I heard either of you.
Oh, I said no.
Amy said no, I didn't say anything.
Are you abstaining?
But I'll go with the no vote, so we vote.
So, in that case,
Recommend that you open the floor to nominations.
So do.
I'd like to start with nominating Alan Diaz.
I'll nominate Ashley.
Okay, we can nominate.
Are we all nominating something?
If you want.
Anybody else, if there are other candidates you want, since we got 2 on the floor,
Ashley
of
Decino.
the other 2, if you want to nominate one of them, go ahead.
Ashley. That's good.
You nominating?
Really strong.
So don't have a thing where I'm not voting for each person, not going to one person to vote for
1, 2,
that
3, 4, 5, 6.
nominates them to get voted on.
Scout.
Mark, you need to speak up. It's a public meeting, so the conversation needs to be public, sorry.
Okay. I'm not nominating
I think the question is, are these just people that we're all gonna vote on as opposed to casting our votes at this point, correct?
So does the nomination, they have to be seconded? Right now, the nominations are open, right? Then you have to second?
There's nothing in the state law that talks about second. What I recommended is that you do the nominations, at least to put them on the floor, simply so that you'd have, if you wanted to reduce the number of candidates, you could do that.
Right, okay.
So if any of the other eligible voters want to nominate someone, this is the time to do so. If not, what I would recommend is that the nominations be closed.
Okay, closed.
All right, so who,
How many,
okay.
how many voting for
Wait,
Ashley?
wait.
Okay, can you, okay, so we have Tom Milius nominated Alan Diaz. We have Gordon Junior.
Senior. No junior.
Nominated
Gordon
Alan. This
Senior.
is kind of, okay, Gordon
No
Senior.
junior.
Yeah, okay, Gordon Senior. And then we have Mark Milius not nominating anybody.
Also not a junior.
Was it, okay. And so now we have a couple other people, anybody else gonna nominate anybody, just so I have them?
We closed nominations.
Okay,
Yes.
so we close the
Is
nomination?
that- Yes?
I'm good, I'm not.
Okay, okay. Okay, so now who closed the nominations?
So then
Troy did.
I would say is you have a roll call vote, each person votes.
Okay, closed total.
Ashley?
Okay, so hold on, yeah, so how many we got? We got, Gordon A, we got Scott.
Gordon R.
Jeez, you gotta kill me. Yeah, okay, so that was for Ashley, that's right. Who else did Ashley? You?
Me,
Okay,
Amy, Carlos, and
okay,
Troy.
okay. Sure.
It's over.
I got all that.
Very good. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Thank
Don't tell her
you all
condolences
for
until after
applying,
she's sworn in.
appreciate you coming down.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
So we'll close the planning board hearing?
Yeah, that's a few long.
We have a,
I make a motion.
have a motion.
Mr. Bud,
We still have 3 people so far.
Mr. Mazin.
Why did I say Gordon A?
Are you staying?
Why did I say
Good evening.
Sorry for the delay.
Please, no.
Okay, I don't know.
There are few places on earth democracy works.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
There's still very few places.
I guess I know.
And we're here to talk about the host agreement.
Yes, sir.
So what's happened during the last couple of weeks is we've had a lot of email exchanges, we've been working with town council, we're up to a point that we think we have an HCA that covers the issues that were discussed during the last 2 weeks. These include issues relating to complaints from the butters, including when the town could investigate the complaints, trying to better define the actual work being done on the parcel, so it's indoor propagation, which is starting plants and outdoor cultivation. There's processing, even though I wrote this is where, unfortunately, time slips out. Under the state regulations on the Cannabis Control Commission, processing is not manufacturing. They're listed as 2 separate activities. They're not 2 separate licenses. You can process the marijuana plants at the growing facility, in that you have to harvest them. That's considered processing, bag them, send them off. That's all processing that can be done under the cultivation license. If you were then manufacturing products using those materials at the facility, you need a separate manufacturing license. They're not going to be manufactured. Processing is allowed in what I described. Okay. And there won't be any retail sales. We talked sort of about what I call the most favored nation status, so we've changed the language so that if Bud's Goods signs another contract with another community for cultivation purposes with terms that are better than what the town has received, then our contract gets revised to meet the terms of whatever community X has. We've tried to put in a method to determine a proper wholesale price for the product that Bud's Goods sells product internally, and that Bud's Goods have mentioned that they're going to have separate companies for manufacturers and retail. They're selling to themselves, it's not an arm's length transaction. So the idea is that we'll look at prices from other facilities to try and get a peg, a wholesale price.
Other outdoor
Yeah,
facilities.
right.
So on that, Is there a difference between the quality in outdoor and indoor?
The answer is yes. There is, just because an indoor facility has climate control at all times, 24/7. An outdoor is susceptible to the climate of the season. So in that nature, no, indoor usually tends to be more consistent yield of product. But for the purposes of what we're growing for, which is biomass purposes, once you start manufacturing by definition of the state, which is processing it down to a crude oil, that's just science. And once you start using chemistry, you inherently start separating certain compounds into certain things. And at that stage, there is no difference whether you're using indoor or outdoor product.
Okay. Now, there's no other outdoor facilities to compare to in Massachusetts?
Yes,
right?
there are a few. For instance, up in Truro is an example.
Okay.
That's where, in fact, some of the language that...
But is this going to be the same case where the cost is that the grower is selling to themselves
I don't
in the
know.
next?
Basically, we're going to have to find places that are outdoor cultivation that are going to have those arm's length transactions.
And I do...
The only question I
know
guess
your concern.
My concern is setting a minimum, basically, because the presentation that you gave was over $1,500 for the start period, and I want to have some sort of minimum,
A backstop.
in there that says,
Standard.
yeah, that says that it won't fall below X, so that at least in this contract that we're signing, so we agree to it won't fall below X, but the expectation is it's double that, or whatever it is.
Right.
But some agreement where it's, if you're projecting out it's going to be $2,000, then the minimum that we should put in the contract is $1,000 or $1,250, so that we have some control over whether or not the market hits that number or not.
Not that I'm concerned about doing that. I can definitely think through that and come up with something. I could also, what we proposed in the language is the data of what pricing is public record with the state. You can always pressure test what that will be. And also, there will be a lot of facilities that are indoor that will be looking to buy from us as well that aren't at an arm's length or are at an arm's length. Just because growing biomass indoors is not a sustainable business model because it's too expensive to grow the quantity that you need to make a vibrant market that we're trying to create or address. Don't have a direct answer for you what the minimum was. I do know right now if you can get your hands on biomass, it's about $2,000 a pound. In my projections, I was at $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 a pound. I would feel a bit more comfortable if you want to set that minimum.
Well,
Yeah, I'm not.
It's hard for me to say what that minimum would be. I can say that we're not, in good faith, I'm not trying to push things here. And maybe what we could add in that language is,
Bless you.
we can maybe determine what that next step would be once we do process it, what that looks like. It's hard to say.
Yeah, I guess all I'm trying to do is put in there so that we hit some number in there, and it's not, for whatever reason, the arm's length transactions don't take place.
Would the municipality be interested in a price per pound instead of a percentage of sales? So that way, no matter what we produce.
I don't think we can do it.
No.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, because the community impact fee, the way it's laid out is very specific. It's a percentage of whatever is sold.
So, as I've proposed to Charlie, we could look at 3 different independent companies and take an average of what that is, excluding us, to set what that price would be, in case you think our pricing is lower than the standard.
I'm just looking for language in there to cover us. I'm not proposing the exact language.
Because your situation's a little more unique than most.
And especially now that you're saying that there will be arm's length transactions.
Potentially, because it might make sense for me to sell through if someone has a different processing technology aside from what I'm doing. For example, if someone has a processing facility to make beverages, I may not have that capacity to make beverages. So it might make sense for me to sell their product so I can get some more product for myself. Just trying to share the real truth.
Yeah,
I understand your concern. It is challenging to set a price though, because it's a commodity.
It's market driven, yeah.
Yeah.
Projections.
I guess I'm just looking to put some.
I think that, I haven't thought it through a whole lot, but having a model or having some standard to hold it by, other companies, other arm's length companies, other arm's length transactions, seems like the only practical way to go.
Well, make the three companies, or the three companies doing our length transaction set.
So don't name the companies. Say that it needs to be at least 3.
Yes.
Well, it's like when we go
An
out
average of
for
3
salary.
arm length
Transaction.
When we go out for salary, we look at other towns and judge based on their average.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I just want, my concern with Charlie was just, I guess I wasn't really considering your business model when we had talked before, that each section is a different business.
Yes, it is.
So the whole, if you grow someplace else, I wouldn't assume that you would grow under the same business. You would probably have a new business that would grow in a different town. So the best of, what was the phrase they used?
Most favored nation.
Most favored nation probably isn't going to apply because you just do a different business.
No, I wouldn't put, the reason that purview is, in my eyes, not really relevant is because I'm capped at the state level at 100,000 square feet today. I'm going to do 100,000 square feet. So no matter where I go, I could never do more at this very moment.
But, correct me if I'm wrong, and I very often am, because you have the facility in Lakeville, you could also potentially grow another 100,000?
No.
No.
100, you cannot grow more
That's
than
total.
100. You can't break
Okay.
it up. You can't add more. I'm actually going to take my cultivation license from Lakeville and transfer it here to speed up the process.
Okay.
But I cannot have more than 100.
All right, then I must have
And
misunderstood.
the
I thought,
control commission's being very leery of people trying to set up shell companies and such. Oh,
Right.
well,
And I don't want to risk my other,
no, I understand.
licenses for that.
Is there a possibility for you to lease once you get this process working and you can't get a license above 100,000, they won't allow it? Would you be able to lease the land out to somebody else that could have another 100,000?
I haven't thought about it.
I'm just looking at, would we need a
I
different?
do know in California, stacking licenses is something companies do because that's
It's
just
an
not-
economy of scale.
Yeah. But I don't know how the state would perceive it because technically it's still one plot of land. Now, if I came back in front of the planning board and I
And
asked
subdivided
to subdivide the 47 acres, maybe that way, but
Okay,
I'm not looking
just-
to get into that, and because, if someone over here doesn't know what they're doing, and I'm over here, and I do know what they're doing, and all of a sudden they start using a product on their plants, and the air blows and it
Yeah.
lands on my plants, now I may be at risk, so.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think outside the box because this is really
My
gonna be
goal
the
is
only
to,
time that we're gonna
utilize.
negotiate
But
with
also
that.
the other thing is this, if, let's say, did lease another 2.5 acres. Just say it's gonna be for a separate license for a separate company. It won't be with them. They're gonna have to go through exactly the same procedures that Bud's.
Okay.
okay, that's where I.
Okay.
I'm
that's
more
where I was
focused
confused.
on working with the state to try to increase that 100,000 square foot limit than any other activity.
Than any other scenario.
So you have no plans of leasing out property or?
No, my plans are to
dividing the
continue to
property?
grow myself into that ideally.
Where are you and what stage are you in now as far as your license and stuff?
Which ones?
The
I
one-
have 3 retail licenses. We're under
All of them?
You want to know all of them? I got a lot of things going on. Worcester is currently under construction. We're anticipating to open that retail store by this summer. We're in the process of building out an Abington retail location right on the Abington-Weymouth line. I just recently was awarded my third and final retail license, which is in Watertown. I present my community outreach meeting is on February 6th. I have my Lakeville facility, which I look to use as my my manufacturing facility, and then ideally I would use this plot of land for my outdoor cultivation. So that's how.
I think the people like to know who they're inviting into the town, so they ask.
I'm a native of Massachusetts. I grew up in Worcester. I'm a Babson College graduate. You know, I don't think there are many Massachusetts natives left in the cannabis industry. You know, my goal is to build a successful business here in the state. I'm not, you know, looking to expand in any other things. And part of the reason I am really pushing for this outdoor, and I think we are making history. You know, there aren't an abundance of these outdoor things. What we're doing is a movement in this industry, because I think the environmental impact that these indoor facilities have, and the sustainability and the cost factors, you know, they just don't make it a viable market. And most importantly, you know, without this biomass market, cost of products for the state are going to remain high, because investors need to recuperate these $20–30 million that they're investing into these indoor facilities, where for a fraction of that I can produce more than that.
Charlie, anything else from you?
Just, I know that Gordon had mentioned the possibility of requesting or requiring a water line be brought into the facility. And looking at everything, the best way of handling that is through the site plan review process and that. You know, we had sent this information out, now it's been a couple of months to all the departments, including the fire department. The fire chief never said, you know, I think a water line needs to be there. Water protection, fire protection is going to be a part of what they're going to need to comply with. But I think it's too early to say to them, you've got to do it this way. Whereas the main thing is whether the fire chief thinks there are other options that would provide fire protection. Other things are that other property owners might benefit from that. So the question is whether Bud's Goods should be allowing freeloaders onto, or free riders into the situation. And then third is if, in essence, since the town's going to be the one actually putting the line in and paying the cost, that it's a cost the town incurs because of the facility, which means it gets taken off the top of the community impact fee. So,
or the justification of the
community impact.
So, I would recommend that you not put something in about that, simply because I think there are going to be other steps in the process, both in terms of site plan and special permit, where there can be a more thorough discussion about the needs for that water.
That's fine.
And we still have a thorough due diligence to go through, right? We're bringing on geotech to understand where the water water line can come through, where the septic can go, where is our electrical going to be coming from, what's in the, you know, there's arsenic in that land that we need to clean up. There's a lot of due diligence we still need to do before we can determine. I just don't want to release all these engineers.
I keep thinking of the unexploded ordinance. Just, you know, this is always comes to mind.
You know, this is a big undertaking, even to just, you know, plant it as a farm, because we're so meticulously.
And you've seen a copy of the revised.
Yes, I saw it today. It was sent to me, and we clarified our.
And my recommendation is just for us to go over one more time, make sure any typos or anything else, but I don't think there should be any significant changes. They can sign it during the next 2 weeks. I'll bring it to the board for signature on the 11th.
Okay. Anything further? Alexander?
Is a decision being made?
Well, I think unless they're telling me not to do what I just said I'm going to do, then I think they're saying their intent is to sign the agreement.
Yeah.
Excellent.
But they're not voting tonight about it.
Okay.
Until we have a final.
Understood. And so I'll work directly with you to get something final.
Does the 3 arm length transactions, is that?
We should incorporate that.
Yeah.
Right.
I have no issues. Again, I'm not.
Yeah, I just want to
looking
put
to be a
something
partner
in
in
there
the
for the town.
community, and you know, community that lets us in, we want to make sure is benefiting as well, because we are doing something very unique and historic, and we're all taking risks at some degree and some level, and to an entrepreneur, risk should be rewarded.
Thank you.
But not too much.
Well, hopefully.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Troy,
Carlos, I don't know.
Just a quick question, I don't know if it's necessarily to you, but where's this property that we're talking about?
River Street.
River Street.
On the corner of River Street and 105?
Yes.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit further into River
Street. Not right at the corner, but a little bit in.
Abuts the solar field.
Yeah, to the right of the
On
solar
the
field.
105 side of the solar field?
Yes.
Okay. And did I hear you correctly that the community impact fees actually decrease if you get a better deal from another community?
That's why we were talking about the most favored nation status, that the language will be that if they sign an agreement that create better terms to that municipality, we would have that in our agreement.
Better terms for the town?
Yes.
For the town.
And not for the applicant?
Right.
Okay.
But by law, the host community agreement is the best it could be
Right.
based on the state regulations that it's allowed.
We're at 3%.
So how would that even be possible that another?
Well, it's nice to put it in there. Just, let's say the regs change,
Okay.
Yes.
as an example.
And it's not locked into the date of the signature of the agreement or?
Well, because you have the language in there specifically saying that the terms will be changed accordingly if they got a better, if another town got a better agreement.
Even 10 years down the road? it's-
Well, the agreement's only going to be for 5 years.
Yeah, right, it's a
And then we
5-year.
have to renew. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Latini? Sorry for the delay.
Hi, George.
You're good?
So what we were trying to do tonight was have a public hearing on a change of premises. What happened unfortunately is the Express did not print the necessary legal ad when they should have. So what we're doing tonight is informally talking with you, and if there are abutters or other interested parties who would like to comment on a change of premises, obviously, they're welcome to attend the actual public hearing in a couple of weeks, but if they wanted to make their comments now, we'll enter it into the record of the public hearing in a couple of weeks. If you want to start off by describing what the change is to the board.
To change it to extend the liquor license to include the whole building. When BR's was added on in 2002, they never extended the liquor license over to the rest of the building.
So you can't cross the little black line?
Yeah, it's sort of kind of like that. So instead we include the whole building. The whole building
So the
and
function room and everything?
all the function rooms, the building, BR side, there'll be 3 patios, that's it. No outside grass, the same as it's been on the other side, no lawn.
Because you had that sign there that said no drinking.
Yeah, it's just, and then basically they changed across the patios and stuff like that. So basically, just to include the rest of the building. And we want to move the tavern, a little pub into the BR side.
So no champagne toast out on the deck?
I'm sorry, what?
No champagne toast out on the deck where they
Well, on the
get
deck, you
married?
can make anything off.
Yeah,
So
off-
basically,
off,
on
you
the
can't go
grass,
off.
outside,
Go off.
anything outside of where we don't have it fenced in, chained in.
Yeah,
So we keep everybody contained.
okay.
So how's the change been working?
Well, it's not working.
It's not working
Well,
yet.
that's what I'm saying.
The construction,
Yeah.
the building has had more, I've never seen a building with more additions in my entire life. It's just amazing.
You haven't been to Chicago lately, have you?
But, I mean, that's where we're at right now, so.
Skip Sergio just kept
Oh, yeah,
Plunking it
I'm
here,
thinking it
plunking
was
it
a good
there.
idea at 7 o'clock at night, let's just add 5 feet on the
Yes,
kitchen.
that's pretty much what happened too.
Amazing. So we're righting a lot of wrongs, and by the time we get done, the building will be completely new, so.
So how soon would you expect it to happen?
What we'd like to do is be at least finished with the building by the end of April. It's a pretty fast time frame, but that would be our goal, and then we have to do some outside work and.
Well, that state doesn't work that fast.
No, we probably got about 3 months, so we're willing to, we can move breakfast back to where it is supposed to be until everything gets approved and we're good, and then we can roll, so.
So it's just all takeout now and you won't be anybody sitting down?
Oh, well, no, we'll still have breakfast. We'll still breakfast and lunch.
Is it bring your own beer or bring?
No. Right now, just breakfast and lunch. Well, the other side, we're good. We still do weddings and all that stuff, so that's.
Charlie, you were about to say something?
Just simply, if there are members of the audience here, whether they're interested parties or whatever, if they want to provide any questions or comments to the board at this time, is welcome to do so. While the formal hearing is now 2 weeks from now on February 11th at 7:45, whether,
I'll be back.
Yes, and then if there are anybody else, they're welcome to be here.
Doesn't really impact much of anything.
Be back and do it again.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
We have 5 minutes before Ms. Lawless becomes before us.
Let's see, from top River Stewardship Council, reappointment time for Wayne Hinckley for a term expiring on January 23rd, 2022.
I move to reappoint Mr. Hinckley for a term expiring January 23rd, 2022.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
On the earth removal issue with Mr. John Peck, Joseph Peck, his son, visited the Selectmen's office last week to obtain an application to file for a permit for the work that was done on his father's property on Top Street, the one that we've gone to court on. Right as of now, he's not returned anything. I think he was in, was it Thursday?
Yeah, sounds right.
Yeah. The hearing with the court magistrate is scheduled for Monday, February 3rd at 2. If we're going to have that, both town council and myself would attend. The board may wish to consider requesting a delay of a month to allow Joseph Peck to file an application on behalf of his father for the work that was done on the property.
So would we still
The hearing is-
have the fines
But
applied?
the fines would still be there, in the sense of, you're not abating the fines in the sense of if, let's say Joseph doesn't come in, and we get to, so a month would be probably, let's call it March 2nd, because of the leap day. We'd still go to the hearing, the fines would still be there. Okay. So it's up to the board if they would like to instruct me to ask the clerk magistrate for a delay of a month. Or whatever, I mean, obviously it'd be on their schedule, but at least.
Are we sure that's gonna be enough time?
I'm not sure of anything, but considering that, I think Joseph was impressed in the sense of he understood that this needed to get done.
The gravity of the
Yeah.
situation.
But this situation's been going on for a year and a half.
That's my point also, is that, I think in one way or the other, a month is adequate time. Either he's gonna have the application in and we'll start the process, or we're not, he's not going to.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm a no.
So I will inform the clerk magistrate's office and Joseph, and we'll see what comes of it. Aldana Road, Plymouth County Division of Fisheries and Wildlife, I forwarded to Plymouth County revised purchase and sales agreement from Attorney Mayo for the town to purchase the county share of parcels A and B. Joan Pierce hasn't received a draft of the Article 97 legislation from DCAM. She's going to be checking again with them this week. There's no action needed tonight. I just wanted to update the board on that. Joan was very specific and said, I don't blame the board for not signing anything at this point. I'd want to see the same legislation out of DCAM. She's not happy with them either.
Well, they keep changing things up. I mean, it's like a fluid situation. It's always moving.
I'm going to skip the campus municipal building project until we have the conversation with Susan, because that conversation may be longer than a couple of minutes. Fieldstone Horse Shows, the 2020 date's been received from Scott Foss. He has a copy of the new consent agreement that's been signed by all parties. He understands that the consent agreement cannot take effect until the judge, in the case, approves it. And it's going to be important because the new consent agreement is needed to allow the number of proposed show days, which is 34, as the old agreement only allows for 30, and the new one allows for 38. And the departments have been notified about the show days. If we get much closer to May, in the sense of if we get to April and I see no sign of consent agreement, I'll bring this back to the board and council and we'll see what we need to do. Recycling abatement for fiscal 2020, we have bill number 531. The abatement received with the necessary paperwork from the prior hall, but no explanation as to why the board should approve this in January, which is obviously several months after the deadline for the abatements. So I don't know what the board would like to do with this. I think they use dually, if I remember right.
Oh, I don't know, I think it's a tiny thing, I think it was duly.
It was due this past January?
No, it was back, the deadline was back in September. And there's nothing mentioned there's no cover letter or anything in the application.
And they're looking for the full abatement?
They're looking for the full abatement.
Was there a letter from Dooley too?
Yeah, there's a Dooley
okay.
letter, yeah, that's right.
Well, I mean, if we stick with the standards we've set. We've not allowed anybody else unless they've had really egregious reasons for not having paid it on time.
I mean, if we deny one, we have to deny them all.
Have we set up that discussion? Because we were gonna talk about
What I was
with
waiting,
Sue.
what I was waiting for was to try to get out the recycling solid waste to come back, because I think that's part of the necessary discussion.
Okay, it's 8 o'clock and
But
we have,
so, my understanding is unless I hear a motion, the board's not taking any action on it. Or does the board want to officially deny the application for the abatement?
personally, I think if we stick to what we've done along, we deny it.
My view is if we're not delivering a service, then we shouldn't be charging for it, so.
I'm going with Mr. Guerin.
Is anybody going to make a motion, or should I just simply?
I would move that we deny the recycle abatement bill number 53. Well,
I'll second that.
all in favor?
No words.
I'll vote with it so we can talk about changing that later.
Susan, I think it's as close as 8 o'clock.
Yeah, and I have two of the board members with me also.
Oh, that's scary.
He said that, it was him that said that.
Also, just so I think you're aware, not that the board's doing anything tonight about it, I think in the last 24 hours, but Gordon Smith sent in a letter of interest to serve on. So my hope is, unless, it's up to the board, if they want to do something about it tonight, they can. It wasn't officially part of the agenda, so it's up to the board to make that decision.
I was under the impression that the board had to vote, the council on aging board had to vote on it first before we brought it
Well, they
forward.
certainly, I think the board appreciates a recommendation from the council.
Okay, so we'll do that at our next meeting for both.
So-
This is a couple.
So the idea was that to have Susan and the council agent come in and meet with the board, just, so you've been there now about a month? Yeah. Was just, give a sort of lay of the land, so, and provide a little more communication between the council and the board of selectmen as to what Susan's been doing and what she's going to be trying to do during the next few months, along with the council on aging and the staff there, both short-term and long-term, not including the building project. We can talk about that a little bit later. But to get a better understanding of what's happening there at this point.
That kind of, it has to do with a lot of
Yes.
things. So I can't, build programs really because I don't have room for people. So that's kind of hard. But I do plan to add, more exercise programs, things like that, that we will use the Great Hall for now. The problem with doing that is there seems to be like a disconnect when we send people, so we have the art class now going down to the museum. Well, now we never see those people anymore. So they don't know what's going on at the council. They don't know about programs that we're having. It's just harder to get information to everybody when they go into the, same with the yoga, they go to Henrich Hall, so it is that's kind of.
It's a program that's diffuse, it gets separated out, there's no interaction.
There isn't, and that's very difficult, I think. I didn't realize it, but yes, it is. So,
That's one, as much as we've encouraged the idea of, okay, we don't have great facilities there, what other facilities can we use on a temporary, long-term, obviously, basis? It works for that program, but doesn't work necessarily for the council.
For everybody, yeah. So that is difficult. I did, hopefully it's coming tomorrow, purchase a vehicle. It's a minivan because we were using the big vans to take, one person into Boston, putting a lot of money on those large vans.
And the reason that people go into Boston are generally
for medical appointments.
It's not go shopping.
And the van's out of use for a period of time.
Yeah, a lot of repairs being done, then we're down a van, then we can't get people out. Outreach was also using them, using their personal vehicles, which, some of the staff was having problems, just didn't seem like the right thing to be doing. So they'll use that for outreach also.
And the money came from?
From the grant, earmark grant. And we had initially said that we were going to use that money to fix a parking lot. I did speak to Steve about, seeing what we can do to make the parking lot better in the spring, and we did add a handicap spot out there on our own. Steve did that for me, so.
And so what you need to do is contact the state and get the permission to.
I did.
We originally, during the summer, previously, we had to put in, as much as we knew we were getting the money, we had to tell them, okay, this is our intent to spend the money, but then you were able to amend that and they were.
Changed it, and they were fine with that for the use, and I explained the reasoning for that. Let's see, what else? We're definitely making changes with the kiosk, that really using that a lot more now. Some people like it.
So what's the kiosk?
So the kiosk is something that we got in the spring, am I correct?
From Generation.
Yeah, so they paid to have it, and basically it tracks the usage of the council. So people sign in, sign out. They weren't adding them, now we're adding like all the volunteers in there, all our rides, where we're taking people here and there, and it's a great tool.
So the people doing the art classes, are they able to do the kiosk?
So I think that they come up and they put it in, believe it or not, because they want, they want it to be tracked.
So who else, is this information helpful for anybody else besides the council?
Yes, so the grant, which a lot of our program is funded by, they actually require a lot of reporting in order to have that grant. And this will give me all the statistics I need for that every year when I provide that information to them.
Are you
And
able
the
to?
kiosk, it actually has, on the printout, it's called My Senior Center, it has every single activity. So you'll know how many are knitting, how many are doing the writing group, how many is doing, and it's a great
Breaks it down.
statistical
Yeah.
help, yeah.
So if the people don't come up and sign in, are you able to add
I am.
a
So,
roster afterwards?
For instance,
Okay.
with Tai Chi, it's held here on Mondays, and I don't really see Reggie, but he leaves a check-off list in my mailbox.
Okay.
So that I'm able to, because on the back end, I can go in and do anything with that,
That's cool.
to add stuff into it. So we've been really focused on that. We took a training, we went and did that. The receptionist position, I felt like really has a lot on them, like a lot. So I'm trying to kind of make sure that other people are putting their own stuff in and it doesn't all fall on that position. That's just from viewing it, seeing her day in and day out. She's very, very busy, so she's appreciative of it. Yes, so that's getting a little better. Let me see what else. I also spoke with Senator Brady about the whole GATRA situation, and he did say he would be contacting me to meet with Kathy Lenatra to talk about that again.
There's been some progress on another front. with
Oh,
that,
in
too. I don't know,
Plimpton.
Charlie may be able to fill us in with that.
My colleague over in Plimpton, they met with representatives from GATRA a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to do is get an agreement from them in a sense of what our responsibilities and duties would be. The idea here is that we are assessed along with our other assessments, we're assessed money to the MBTA. Under state law, we can transfer that assessment. We're not going to lose the rail station or anything like that, but the money can go to GATRA or to BAT or to another regional transit authority, and then they can provide additional services for our town. So I think the idea is, and I welcome the state senator and state rep's office talking about that, but the idea would be, in fact, not just necessarily just council on aging,
Right.
but it might be a little bit broader service for all residents here in Halifax.
Right, and that's how it is in Pembroke. I spoke to the director of Pembroke, and she said it's for school-age children too, and things like that. So there'll be a lot involved in that.
One of the bigger issues that we have for budgets is busing, and we did talk about going out and looking to ask the regional companies if they'd be willing to provide school bus services.
Okay, we're talking,
With the GATRA program,
okay,
so there is discussion at the school level
Okay.
to reach out to them at regional level
that's good.
to see if they'd be able to provide services, because right now with the busing, we only have one
Okay.
company contracting, so just to throw it out there
Is that for
with
a
it.
student?
Yeah.
And I did just find out too that there's a GATRA medical program, and as long as they, financial guidelines, if they reach them, that we could potentially drop a resident at the Big Y in Kingston, and GATRA medical would take them into Boston. They'd have to have that signed off by their primary care. So that was an interesting option for people. So, because we do sometimes have to turn people down. We just don't have the staffing for all the appointments that they have. So,
They be getting progress on the roofing?
the what?
Roof?
The roof, I haven't gotten an update on the roof.
At the building maintenance?
Yeah, I can
Building
talk to
maintenance
Scott
working
tomorrow
on
and
it.
see if he's heard anything, but.
I provide information to the building committee in the sense of, we can, if they want, the board can declare an emergency, we can start spending money, even money that hasn't been appropriated yet, but, we do still need to follow some of the procurement guidelines and such as well as we can do it as an emergency. They
If the
need
weather
to-
stays like this, I think we'll be fine, but if
We're gonna have this weekend.
we have a heavy snow.
Yeah, but,
I think we're gonna have a
in terms
situation.
of whatever they're gonna do, they need an engineer or architect to do what, to give a plan for the roof. As far as I know, I haven't certainly heard from Scott or from John Campbell or anybody else that they're prepared now to hire somebody. I think that really is gonna be the first step.
Were the plans for the previous iteration, or they included the roof
We
available
don't-
to us?
No,
No.
no. I took a look at them this morning.
That stinks.
So the next step of that was that the structural engineer had to come out. Okay, I'll talk to him tomorrow and see where we're at with that. Anything else, you guys? Got anything? No. I created, like an email group with all local council on aging directors, which has been super helpful, just to share resources and things like that. And there were a couple other new people that really were all about it, so that's been very helpful for questions. And then the only other thing that I don't understand how it runs is like for programs, like there's no like petty cash situation, like I'm supposed to pay for all the stuff, and I just think that there's gotta be a better way.
Right, a couple of departments have small petty cash amounts, usually it's like $50.
Yeah.
If you're looking for more than that. I
Yeah,
think-
and do we have accounts? I don't even
Well,
know
like,
what other
can you talk
accounts
to
are,
Sandy about
Walmart or.
I would be talking.
Yeah, we do have a Walmart.
We have a
Walmart. There's a Walmart
Yeah, if
card.
I get access to something like that, because it's just, it's a lot.
Right, so what I would do is start off by talking with Sandy, seeing, because she'll probably have the most knowledge about if there were businesses that we have accounts with.
Linda would have those cards.
Yeah, or even like Amazon, I can
Yeah.
order stuff for, we have parties and things like that. I mean, Joe likes to spend her own money on it, but
Remember to get
Oh,
the
really?
no.
Tax ID number.
tax ID number, so.
Yeah, so that we're not paying the tax on it. I do have that, but I just,
At one
that's another
point,
thing I just need
at
to
one point
address.
years ago, they had a bank account opened and bought constantly and used, but unfortunately, they were not keeping records and stuff that was going on.
No,
So that's what happened with that.
yeah. So just, that's my only, I can't think of any real major issues.
Well, I think as we start going toward the municipal concept, which is going to be following up after this,
Yes.
that one of the things we could do is survey everyone that uses a COA and just kind of ask them what activities or what suggestions they might have so that we take that into account as we try to think about if long-term
Right.
remodeling
Right.
the police
I
station.
did make a suggestion box, but I've been making so many changes, I was afraid to put it out.
We'll give you another month, Susan. We'll give you another month.
I do plan to do that, but yeah, I think we need to just wait a couple more weeks.
So you say the
Until
concealed,
that's
Doing very well.
So no, I think that's all. Do you guys have any other questions?
Do we have somebody that, you got an account bank form before, are we interviewing that person tonight?
No.
No, okay. yeah.
No, because the board, so we were unable to meet, we didn't have a quorum.
We didn't have a quorum.
So, okay.
So we had to cancel our meeting.
Okay, so
That's what
we'll
happened.
hold off on
Yeah.
interviewing that person for.
And the other lady,
It was actually two.
Yeah, Judy and I,
Judy.
right, we're gonna address both
Right.
of those at the meeting.
Okay.
And it won't be until the third Tuesday in February, so.
Correct. Yes.
So for Tuesday, so we're talking the 4th, so the 25th for us then.
Yes. I'll call Candy right
If the
away.
board's prepared, if you want to talk, given the council's here, and obviously as an interested party, if you want to talk a little bit about the campus concept, and I know there's been various talk about, given the size of the project, maybe we need a dedicated committee of some sort for that, but
Yeah, I brought that up at the meeting recently at the school building.
Yep.
And
last month,
yeah,
and last
Last
week.
week.
maintenance committee meeting. This project is really a global approach kind of thing. I mean, we're really talking about a lot of departments and a lot of buildings and a lot of things. I thought we needed to do something a little more dramatic in terms of a committee structure, with input from everybody, of course, including the Council on Aging, because everybody's affected. But my experience in the past has been that we had great success when we did the school project by making it more global and getting more people involved, and especially people that are around on a daily basis, and not just throwing all the burden on volunteers, meeting once or twice, in the evening when everybody's burned out. I think we haven't really discussed it much. I was going to bring it up to the board to see if they were supportive of that concept at least, and then try to figure out a composition of a board, or of a committee, if you will. But to incorporate everybody, and everybody have some serious meaning, not just input on a hit or miss basis, but actual involvement, I think it might be more productive in the long run. And the more people we get involved in it, the broader the support could potentially be, which I think might be more helpful trying to get something accomplished.
And I think, because people are starting to talk about it, so then the concerns are already, I've already gotten a phone call or two about it from more like the youth and rec side of it.
Right.
And just explain to them that we want everyone to be involved, that we wouldn't, do anything, that we're just in the talking stages of it right now.
Yeah, I think on the periphery, I think we're talking about incorporating a community center kind of aspect to it, especially if we're talking about a rather large building.
Yeah.
But again, everything's conceptual at this point, and we just need to get input and try to narrow it down. And have, before we do an assessment or hire somebody to do an assessment, we need to kind of focus in on what we want first.
Before you can have them come out with it.
Before it makes any,
And pay somebody a lot of money, you at least give them something they can focus on and they know what we're talking about.
Give them some parameters.
Throwing out, like playing marbles, everything's rolling in every direction.
Right. And when they talked about, do you really think it would be, that seemed like a long time, 6 to 8 years seemed long, John said.
I'm not sure if John was referring to getting it all done or getting it conceptually started. I don't see it happening in May, if that's...
No, I get that. I'm realistic about it too.
Yeah, I think maybe by, not this town meeting, but the next one, next year, 2021, that we might be able to get at least far enough to have some conceptual thought and have some estimating. And here's the problem, as you all know, we were talking about 3 million and we couldn't get that done. This is going to be a lot bigger, even though it takes care of a lot more needs. And then we've got other things as well on the burner. We've got, a tremendous amount of road work that needs to be done. We've got 2 bridges that are practically in collapse.
Yeah.
So all of this impacts everything. So that's why it needs a global approach. Everybody, we need people from FinCom involved in this committee, not just reporting to them once in a while, but somebody who's there and sees the nitty-gritty of it and is able to communicate it better. It's going to be an effort. It's going to be a huge effort.
So we're not going to be put back on that back burner again, are we?
No, the idea at this point is to try to incorporate everything and get it done and make some sense out of it. And
I don't have too much time left.
Well, I'm not that far behind you. I made the comment, I'd like to see it done in my lifetime, which is getting shorter every
I
day.
said that 20 years ago.
Well, good for you, at least you hung in there. But
I got a purpose now.
everybody needs purpose.
Is it all right for us to ask a question?
What kind of question is it?
Well, in Halifax, Plimpton, and Carver, you talked about the 3 of them getting together, grouping them together. Did anything ever become of that?
We were waiting for Susan or her equivalent to be appointed before moving that along. I think the first idea in working with the communities was Susan needed to start up, and then she could meet with her counterparts in Carver and Plimpton with the idea maybe what we do is, at the very least, start publicizing the activities in all 3 communities to see, okay, let's at least let people in Plimpton know what's happening in Halifax, like the Tai Chi, like the art class, etc. Let's see, are they willing to come up to Halifax for those activities? Let's see what's happening in Carver. Let's see whether people from Halifax are willing to, whether it's on the Elder bus or independently, go down to Carver for activities. Because if we're doing a regional idea of a council on aging, if we're seeing that people aren't willing to make the trip, even, we haven't spent a huge amount of money on it, but let's say we said, this is gonna be a central location, I don't mean Halifax, but wherever it is, if people aren't willing to make the trip right now, my concern is going to be if we tried to regionalize, whether everybody would lose out, that nobody would go to that central location. Now, part of that would be that we've talked about GATRA.
Yeah.
If we provide better transportation service as part of that, that might get us over that hump to get people to get out of the house. Whether, obviously, folks who can do it independently could always do it, but the folks who need the elder bus, who would need GATRA, they'd have more availability to make that trip and go to those other communities. But there's a starting point to say, not we're merging or anything like that, but inviting, encouraging people in all three communities to participate in the activities of all three councils on aging.
Well, one of the concerns was where Carver is so geographically large. You're looking at South Carver. Are elderly from South Carver likely to want to make the trip? I don't see it either.
I don't see that either.
I don't see it either.
Clinton, maybe.
Yeah,
This is New England.
exactly.
Most
And then I
people
don't
wanna go around
feel
the block.
like, maybe you guys will disagree, but I don't feel like I should be supporting multiple things. Like, I feel like I have to pick something.
I think in the end, you're not going to get a lot of support from the other towns either.
Okay.
All right.
And that's kind of the feedback I've gotten from the seniors.
That's what I'm getting to. And I know Plimpton's trying to expand their program a little bit. They've gotten a little more facility. They don't have as large a group, of course, but they're making an attempt now. They've got a grant for a lift that's going to help get people into the town hall. They've taken over an area. They've got an area downstairs they're going to try to make more accessible for classes and those kinds of things. But again, that doesn't mean that we couldn't work something out. I think Plimpton is the natural partner, if we're going to have any partner.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
how that will configure is...
But like I said, with very little cost, there's nothing preventing us from encouraging
into
people
it.
to go back and forth between the two or
Yeah.
three communities. Because I know informally,
Right.
we get people who go to other communities around the water, because they can go over to East Bridgewater. I mean, it's not like they bar the door when you say the word Halifax. I'm sorry.
Right, no.
If I wanted to do the driving, I'd go to Dutchess.
We have out of towners coming here.
Right.
We do, we have out of towners.
Yeah.
They want decaf coffee, they told
Troy, I think it is something.
Yes, Dan.
Not coming to the selecting meeting all that often, the campus concept is something that's new. Would you mind talking a little bit about what exactly that is and where you're at, even your preliminary thoughts there?
Very, very, very preliminary.
I think Tom and Gordon were all three of you at the meeting.
I didn't make it to the meeting, but I saw it.
Yeah, for me, the concept was much like, and it would be hard to describe if you weren't involved in it, would be the committee that we put together for the school building project. There was more expertise involved, people in the field. It just incorporated, the idea was to drag more people in, have somebody from the FinCom, maybe somebody from capital planning, to get a much broader base of participation and hopefully add more expertise and bring different directions in.
My question is more about the actual project.
So-
Are we looking at consolidating fire?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the campus project.
Locations.
Committee.
That's, Carlos, if you look at the,
She has a picture.
Concept plan.
This is sort of the concept.
It's
So the idea for our TV audience also,
Well,
Yeah.
the police, this is the police station.
We have
Become the council.
various parcels of land between Carver, South, and Plymouth Streets that to some extent interconnect. We have facilities on those parcels, some for town forests, et cetera. The idea is that
And the skate park.
some, not necessarily everything, but public safety, state council on aging, moving playing fields around, community center, where
Fire police.
Right. Could be on output, some combination thereof could be on that parcel. Now, we have existing facilities that might be transformed as part of that, not including even if we move the fire department out of the fire department. Well, now we have a parcel, what do we do with that? If we move the police out of the police station, would that serve as a community center or council on aging?
Or both.
There's bits and pieces that could be moved around.
Chief,
It's ambitious.
We
Yes.
do own the land.
you have anything to add?
And also land behind it too.
Yes.
The town
Put
forest.
more fields in the back.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean,
Okay.
Chief.
I think basically, you explained to the gentleman, basically, that's the
Yeah.
concept. We had, Chief Barros put out a survey from all the department heads of what our needs were gonna be into the future. So everybody kind of went through their facilities and figured out what they needed. Basically, the council on aging is the one with most need right now because the roof is falling apart. There's no handicap access. So the plan was to kind of come up with this concept where the council on aging would move to the police station. We have an elevator, we have a large enough building, I have too much space, that's my problem in that police station. It's not constructed to be a modern police station, it's a schoolhouse that was remodeled to be a police station. So we have a lot of rooms that could be, you know, the load-bearing, not load-bearing walls, the walls could be taken out, made into classrooms, facilitate council on aging. They could utilize the elevator to go up and down. We have a kitchen, so all their needs would be met. Then the fire department and police department would consolidate into one building with a community room that could be utilized for type of, you know, meetings like this. Other meetings, the building maintenance and the water department would go into the fire department.
Yep.
And the, what am I gonna say?
That would free up space for
That would-
the highway department.
That would free up space for the highway department because they're lacking in space because all the equipment for the water department and building maintenance is in the highway department. So that would free up that space. The ball fields, with the initial plan that we're talking about, would have to be moved up further a little bit, but there's this new parcel of land that's behind the police station, 49 Carver, that we might be able to acquire, so then the fields could actually stay where they are, so that wouldn't affect the fields or the skate park. So basically, have everything kind of a campus concept, all the, you know, departments.
Okay. And then the former council on aging building, you know, like, what the thoughts are on that?
Are you looking to sell it? Are you looking in the market for the building?
I don't think that's right.
Take a lot
So,
to read
right,
it.
that's the issue, is, yeah, there's nothing in the plans to refurbish that building, because it's just, not throwing money at something like that.
We're gonna have to do something though to spend on it to fix the roof, and I mean, we can't just walk away from the building, the town owns it. I'm not sure what use we put towards it, but we can't just let it fall down.
Well, the other thing is, it isn't gonna happen real quick, so. we need to-
So the roof has to be done.
So,
See if we will.
It also needs to be sold with the water department. It's all one parcel, correct? If it
I
was
believe
sold,
so, yeah.
yeah.
it's all one parcel, so it wouldn't be like you'd just be selling that one
Go
building.
back to its original purpose, Pope Tavern,
Okay.
and get some money out of the facility.
So Susan, anything else you want to add to that?
No, I'm supposed to talk to you about hop stuff.
Yes, you wanted to switch your hats.
All right. So, they had thought that they confirmed the date with you, but I don't believe I got anything in writing, so that
think
did
we
not
ever-
happen.
Well, I don't think we ever confirmed the date. did we?
Okay. All right,
Talk
so.
about
I did look back in my
You
paperwork.
didn't
I
see
didn't see
anything,
nothing.
okay. So, the plan is to have the 5K race on May 17th.
I will tell you, just from personal experience, I'm just going to give you a heads up. The third weekend in May, it doesn't matter where you are.
Yes.
It is the most popular weekend for a road race in the United States. Doesn't matter what it is.
Really?
There are more road races that third weekend of May than any other weekend of the year.
All right, well, I will tell him that, but
People running in traffic.
I don't know that it, I'm not sure, it might have already
Yeah,
gone.
just give me a heads up.
Okay.
So I think in terms of pushing participation,
Yep.
it needs to be very local, and people need to be.
And it usually
It
is,
is, I
yeah.
understand, but I
Yeah.
think we need to do much more local publicity and much more pushing, even just of people walking the 5K rather than
Okay.
running. People sort of,
Yeah.
but walking, they probably can handle, they can do it in an hour. And
Yes, yeah. The other thing they were gonna do is, because we really didn't have like a grand opening of the playground, they were gonna do a ribbon cutting ceremony after the race. And they wondered if one of the selectmen could be in attendance. And we were gonna also ask Kim to come back for that.
Yeah, she had a lot of
She really
involvement.
did, yes. So,
Can you have more than one selectman?
absolutely.
Yeah.
You can all come if you'd like.
How about the selectmen participating?
Charlie runs it.
They don't want to get any sharp.
Are we talking about a
I nominate Tom to do the running, because there's no way I'm
Promise
running.
the fire department will be there for CPR.
I will command the wheelchair brigade.
Can I ask a question? Is there any progress on the wall? Were we gonna have a wall with the bricks?
Oh, the bricks. So, okay. So what's happening with that is, I think they came in for the Eagle Scout project.
Obviously, I bought a brick, and that's why I'm bringing it up.
So did I. So they're gonna build the pavilion and then incorporate the brick walkway with that. And that will be done by April.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
gonna be
I was just
far
curious.
corner.
I hadn't
He
seen
has
it.
a deadline, for the Eagle Scout project, there's a deadline, I think it's your birthday, maybe, or something, so that will definitely be done, and we did order the bricks. So, that should be done then, and then we're gonna do, this doesn't really affect you, but just so you know, on the Friday before the race, they're gonna just do the big bib pickup at the Council on Aging, that way we don't have to lug all the stuff back and forth from the
Okay.
school, we're just gonna have it there.
It's now 8:30, we have
Okay,
a
so
sworn
just-
in.
yeah.
So do you want a motion to approve?
Yeah.
So I'd make the motion
The
to
road race?
Yeah.
approve the road race for May 17th.
With the necessary road permits, closures and such, and that they have used the council on aging property and parking lots and such to set up the infrastructure for the road.
I'll check with the chiefs.
for that?
Yep, that's my motion.
Free.
Second, I'll second that. Once I don't have to repeat it.
All in favor?
Please and thank you.
I'm in that position like last year.
Thank you.
What is the hot money going towards now that the playground is built?
Maintenance.
Maintaining it.
And it was, one of the reasons why we have hops now is because the previous
There was no
playground
maintenance.
fell apart because we weren't setting aside money for maintaining it.
Okay,
So we plan to have that yearly fundraiser.
so there's just a general fund that you use for maintaining landscaping, kitchen needs,
Mulch,
whatever.
yeah,
And then,
any
yeah,
repairs.
exactly.
Okay.
All right, chiefs?
No, actually, Bill Pond is here at 8:30.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. I saw you sitting back there.
Sorry.
Thanks for seeing me, guys.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for being seen.
Well, I live on 40 Oak Place, and I'm looking for help from you guys to help the citizens of Halifax that live on dirt roads get some help. There's plenty of different ways to do it. I mean, I know nothing about repairs of roads, but, you know, you can Google anything these days. And the three most important things they're saying is the grader, the heavy roller, and the actual aggregate that you're putting on the ground. We sold our grader, and we didn't get another grader, so there's no grading the roads of any of it. And by the way, this is not about turning any dirt roads into paving or anything like that. This is just so we can drive down the roads without losing a wheel someplace or
Understood.
actually not be. I went around Oak Place for so long that I went down to Crystal Lake, but that got just as bad, so it's like I can't even get out of my house anymore without running into some trouble. So what I wanted to talk about, you know, the grader is the most expensive thing. I don't know why we didn't sell our grader as a trade-in for another grader, or what the story was with that. I know it costs money. The ones I see that are probably appropriate, if you buy a new one, it might be $350,000. On the other hand, the roller that I've never ever seen used on my road in the 20 years that I've lived here, the heavy roller is needed to compress that dirt so it doesn't just fly out of the hole that you just filled it up with. What the highway department does is just run their trucks back and forth a few times and say, well, that's good enough. You can see the center of the road has never been touched, but I was wondering if we can't buy it, can we get involved with one of the towns around us that maybe has the same problem? Maybe they got rid of their grader, or?
Actually, we use the grades, help with other towns loaning out the grader. But interestingly enough, it came out at a capital planning meeting tonight, just before this meeting. I don't want to speak to it too much, but the highway surveyor's here, and maybe he could add some to that. 'Cause I know
He wasn't too helpful to me when I talked to him. but-
Well, it's all about money and trying to budget for it. We've got 2 bridges that are in desperate repair need. I know he was...
Well, there is a bylaw too that we're supposed to take care of the town's roads that are private roads, but public people drive on them for more than 6 years.
Oak Place is a little bit unique too, because it's actually an easement, but that's neither here nor there.
You said that to me a long time ago.
So it is. It's not actually a road. It was an easement across somebody's land, and it gets a little complicated. But
I
the
hope
town's
that
been
person
maintaining
doesn't
it.
just block the road then, I guess.
Well, good point, but I don't know if that person's still with us, so I don't know if that's even an option. But I know Steve had commented that he was looking at some used equipment to see if we could find something to incorporate
Well,
into.
can the state help us at all? I mean, if this is something that's obvious impacting road traffic and emergency vehicles coming down my street, if you want to get an ambulance down there, don't drive too fast, because that body's going to be flying out of the back.
Well, that's why most roads get maintained, and even dirt roads and private ways, to have emergency access vehicles, emergency vehicle access. I can't answer the question. I just know that it came up at a capital planning meeting tonight, and there hasn't been any.
Well, I'm
follow-up
asking
yet.
for your help, that's what I'm
No, I
asking
understand.
for, so.
As much as we want to help, it's the responsibility of the highway surveyor and the townspeople to vote the monies that's necessary to repair the roads and buy the equipment. So we can't always put it all blame it on the highway person, because the town itself has got to be supportive. And believe me, my street's paid, and then it's not.
Well, we have a snow budget, right? Don't we have a snow budget?
Yeah, but yes.
Well, what if it doesn't snow at all?
Well,
So
then
what do you do with the money?
Money goes back.
Well, so what happens usually at a special town meeting is the money is moved out of that line and spent in other lines.
Good, move it into the road fixing, because snow plowing, road repairing, it's very similar in my mind.
Well, that could be an article, but again, somebody would have to bring it forward, either citizen or
I
the highway
brought it
surveyor.
for, it's supposed to be on the town meet, well, Charlie, whatever that.
Mr. Pond has submitted a citizen's petition with the necessary 10 signatures
Perfect.
for the annual town meeting.
Okay, but that wouldn't suffice for the special.
If he wants to move money from, if he wants to make a change at the special, we need a separate article to do that.
But that would be whenever we had another special.
Which will be-
Well, actually, it would be the fall, because it would have to be after the end of the fiscal.
So the idea here, the snow count, let's assume.
We should know what's,
Come May 11th, we'll assume,
No.
short of, for instance, the Mother's Day snowstorm 40 years ago, that we're not going to have any more snow, that we've spent whatever we're going to spend on the snow budget. So that for a month and a half, we would still have the ability, if we voted at that town meeting, to transfer the money from that line item, vote to use it for whatever purposes, but it'd have to be used by June 30th. So that, for instance, Steve could either rent the equipment and have a firm come out there and do the work. That's probably most likely, given that.
That was what I was gonna say too. Why can't we hire somebody? You know, if we don't have the equipment, I don't know what it costs per mile, but this is your neighbors that are having trouble driving down their street, so.
I do hire somebody twice a year to come out and grade the roads. And now with the Kubota, we try to get out there when we can to use the scrape box. But it's not gonna get the road perfect, but it helps for a little while.
3 days.
The last time we did it was frost. We tried doing it and it was frost, so we just threw some stuff in there, trying to get it so it would smooth out for, like you said, a few days of smooth, but there's nothing you can really do, like you said, without a roller. We've never had a roller for doing the dirt roads.
The roll is only $10,000, much cheaper.
I don't know where you get that. I looked at used ones today and it is $20,000 to $30,000 for the size roller.
Well, I just happened to bring in some,
And what size is it?
VR 3750 vibratory roller, 15,290, brand new.
How much, what's the size, what's the weight?
5,000 pounds?
Yeah, that's, you need the big one.
So I hear your concerns, and I hear the concerns of a lot of the taxpayers in towns when it comes to the roads.
Could I just? I made up these, I went out and took pictures today so you guys can see what I'm dealing with.
Is
Yeah, I
this?
got it.
Okay.
So let me ask you, because the roller is too much, you're gonna just keep going over it in tire tracks? Is that acceptable?
No, that's not the plan. The plan is to fix them. But you even brought up the bylaw. The bylaw is a private way, is 2 times a year is we are supposed to.
With the grader?
With the grader, and that's what
Right.
I hire a company twice a year.
I haven't seen it, but,
Well,
okay.
If you want, we have the record up at the town barn. You can come up and see the bill.
Well, then you should roll it afterwards, because it's not working with your grader.
We
then.
don't have a roller. We have a small roller for when we're doing patchwork, but not a full-size roller.
So in the 20 years I've been here, you never thought about getting a roller to help
I've
the
been in charge
streets?
for 2 years, and I'm trying to catch up with the times, but
Yeah.
if we don't have the money, we don't have the money. I can't make money. I can't take money off of trees.
Yeah, you said that before, I know.
And what I was showing you the pictures, if you look at those pictures, there's no place to work down there with a full-size grader anyway. People put up no trespassing or no private property. We can't even get near half the walls because they complain about we're touching the wall or.
Yeah, the entrance to the road has got is there a wall on the right-hand
Right,
side?
on the right-hand side, you go down a little bit more, this guy, he started building another
Yeah.
wall. So there's no place we can get the water to go off the road because he doesn't want this stuff in his yard, the other guy doesn't want it in his yard, so.
Where are you?
So
And it's the same, it's not just that dirt road, it's almost every dirt road is the same thing, you got 3 or 4 people that are just, they do not want anything near their yard. And there's no way to do the work without putting the stuff somewhere.
So there's really no way to crown the
Yeah, you
road?
try to put a crown on it. And that guy that I do hire, he does a good job of putting a crown, but like he said, it only lasts so long, and if I hire him, and it rains out the next day,
Well, if you're hiring him, why can't he do the roller then?
it costs more money.
But like you said, that's just turns it to
And
nothing.
like I just said, it's a private road. I'm not supposed to spend any extra money except for those 2 days.
Well, I know a lot of people that live on dirt
It
roads
is, but
around me that
they
are
do-
not
we have to
happy
go-
either.
They have to keep on doing the same job over and over. We'd like to do it, but,
No, I just wish you'd do it right, that's all.
yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
Jim, way in the back.
Yes.
I live on a dirt road as well, so I call many times for help because there's so much, it's like when it's raining, it's like a flood on the street. So again, so if, for a private road, you only do it twice, what about a public road? So how many times that we go and work on the road?
So what,
Road at my street.
what road?
Jordan Road,
Okay.
Yeah, they have a bad spot in the middle.
yeah.
It's the
Very
same
bad.
thing. One place, they've got chickens and all this other stuff on one side of the road, and they don't want the road, water going that side, and the other side has people's yards.
It's my yard, I don't have any problem with
So what
that.
people are you talking about on my street? Because I'll talk to them. I thought everybody on my street was for getting the road fixed, but maybe I missed somebody.
See that sign right there? They've actually put logs in our way so we can't go to the side of the road.
Sir, on Jordan Road, so I never had anyone contacted me, so it's my yard, so anything that you wanna do. So I call many times.
Which house is yours?
21 Jordan Road. Yeah, the big.
So you don't mind if a little bit of water goes away?
I don't mind as long as I have a road, because my car being ponded and, you know, it's not safe, you know.
Right.
So I don't have any problem with that, so as long that we have paved, not paved, but it's again.
The dirt, right?
Yes,
So it's smooth.
yes, sir.
Where is this at?
That's right on the corner of Crystal and Oak.
Well, his son just died, maybe that's why he's upset, I don't know.
Oh, no, they started doing that a few years ago.
I don't remember seeing that side, right by there all the time.
They put all the stumps and stuff there. And
Yeah,
the guy next to him.
and he doesn't
the guy
like
next
it
to him,
either.
He doesn't want us within 4 feet of his stone wall, which is on the dirt road. And that's the worst part of the road. He's the guy that's in the military, the army guy.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That may not even be his property anyway.
So,
None of it is,
Well, yeah, no,
it's that,
it belongs,
25's driveway.
right, exactly, that's what I'm getting.
Let me ask this question, Steve. When was the last time you graded the road, and when is the next time you may be able to do it?
The next time we'll grade it is spring. That's,
And nothing
the
can be
last time we
done,
did it was fall.
nothing can be done at this time.
No, we went out last, what was it, 2 or 3 weeks ago with the Kubota and some gravel
Fill.
and stone and tried to fill it up. But like I said, we were trying to dig it up a little bit. You're supposed to scarf it. He was right on some of the things, but the only way you're gonna get rid of the holes is if you have to scarf the road to
Yeah.
dig it up. And you get down to the bottom of the hole, and then you fill it up and you roll it. We don't have a roller big enough, so like you said, we drive back and forth and try to smooth it as best we can.
Like, that's on the back of that? The scarfer?
Yes. Even the grader we had did not even have that on it. The thing was a 1960 something.
Right, it was ancient.
We auctioned it off, we got $1,500 for it. And the person who bought it, he bought it for his father to do a long dirt driveway. It was unsafe, the front, we couldn't buy the parts for it anymore. You could buy it, but it was gonna be too expensive. And then I wasn't gonna have the thing go down the road and the tire fall off and kill somebody. So that's why I got rid of the machine. It's a safety factor, not because we don't wanna do the work on the dirt roads, it's just, I think I'm looking out for the town, I don't want the town to get sued.
What do you have on the agenda as far as the town meeting concerned for the highway department?
Trying to get money for working on roads, and tonight we talked about maybe going for a backhoe. But the grader, I'm keeping 2 years worth of records on the sweeper, grader, and catch basin to see how much we're spending on renting, or how much we're spending to pay companies to come in instead of owning our own. So we're gonna do that for 2 years to figure out the cost.
Could you ask the surveyor to rent a roller next time? Maybe try that out once and see how good, maybe it'll last a couple of weeks
I
instead of
understand
3
what you're
days.
saying, but I've got paved roads that are falling apart also.
Well,
So I
why
have to
bother
try to
doing
move one-
anything if it's not gonna work for 3 days? I mean,
Right, so-
that's,
So I'm not gonna do anything with the asphalt roads, but I'm gonna work on all the private roads. And I'm not trying to sound like a jerk, it's just, what am I supposed, what do you want me to do? I
I
can't.
want you to fix my road.
I
That's
understand
what I
that,
want.
but and I'm getting that for the main roads too.
Okay,
so,
this could be going around and around for a while here.
may I ask, what was the citizens petition that you put in?
He wanted a sum of money for repair of the dirt roads in town, whether they were private or public.
A sum of money.
Yeah, there's no, because I need to talk to Steve and work out, okay, we'll probably want to go out to bid between now and May, get a number, and that's a number will be presented at town meeting.
So
And
what
just
about paved
less-
roads?
Was that?
What will it cost to pave the roads? Pave them?
Pave that?
Yeah.
That, yours is a private road, not accepted road either.
Okay, but people living there paying taxes. Isn't it?
So,
Why we don't have?
so the difference with
I
those
did not
roads.
make it, I didn't make the road
No, I
not
know.
accepted.
But I'm just saying, all people that.
You'd
live
have to
on
put in
those
a
streets-
petition to accept the road to begin with.
Yeah,
I mean, you can put an article in a town meeting and then speak to it and see if you can get everybody to agree to accepting it,
okay,
and that's a start.
maybe we'll try that.
And as for the snow and ice money, last year they used the money for insurance or something like that. They took back whatever they needed. And I had to buy one plow and one sander with the extra money last year.
Yeah, and you've got a sander now
And I
that's
have
not
sanded
working.
it, right, so there's another 5,000, and that's going with a used one instead of going with a brand new one.
Well, it doesn't answer your question.
No.
Solve your problem at
No.
this point in time. But be aware of it. You get your neighbors or something going, and Stephen does.
No, they'll be signing it, but not everybody lives on a dirt road, so we'll just deal with it.
Well,
I'm sorry, I don't have confidence.
You're gonna have
in
those
our
people at
surveyor.
town meeting?
Yeah.
Vote on it?
Yep,
Okay. And that's the best we can do at this time.
we'll do that then.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. See you.
Thanks, Steve. And we come to the time of the night where we're gonna talk about the campus cost.
Steve,
Since I already spoke on that, you should speak.
Charlie, did you put in there about the regional on the agenda? Talking about road work? Do you want to stay for a little
Where's
bit?
your jacket? You're walking out of here without it.
No.
They were talking.
Oh,
That'll be fine.
low tone.
I guess we'll talk about something else and go back.
Okay.
Well, I mean, do we have anything, well, I don't know whether you wanted to move forward with anything, Tom, or Gordon, about the campus, having a committee with one or...
I'm all for creating a committee, like Tom said, and putting people on it that want to drive.
I think that makes the most sense for the size of this project.
Are you gonna send a memo out to all the boards to see who wants to be involved with it?
I think we appoint Charlie to start. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I just wanted to cause
I
reaction.
already ran 3 projects. Thank you very much. Somebody
I
else
mean,
takes a turn.
I think it should be the department heads from every building that we're talking
Right.
about affecting. So it would be water, highway, police, fire, council on aging.
Right, somebody from the finance committee,
Capital, maybe?
capital.
And also the recreation.
The rec.
Yes,
Yeah, youth and rec.
Youth and rec, yeah. Fire department, police department, i.e. either the chiefs,
I
probably
think
the
the
chief.
fire chief should be the,
He goes on vacation and you nominate, or you come back.
nominate him for.
What do you do? You're
No,
chair
no.
next week. Next week.
Not only nominate them, we elect them.
Yeah.
I just think you need somebody in that group to drive forward.
Yep, I think you should involve the building inspector, because I think some rehab of some of the buildings is involved. I think he'd be a person to involve.
And zoning, and I don't know if that's.
Environmental impact too, maybe?
Yeah, Concom, yeah.
So basically everybody, like you said.
Yeah.
Like you said.
Yeah, but at least it's a lot of these people are full-timers, so that they're available during the day. You've got more ability to pursue things, as opposed to throwing the burden on, part-time volunteers. So
You're closer
I think
to
that's a
the-
start. I think we can keep expanding as the need.
But in the same frame, it's important that we get the public involved in it, because they're the ones in the bottom line, they're the ones gonna be voting to the money, the things to do.
Yep.
So the more
Oh,
we
but
get
yeah,
information
people,
out, we ought to have the televised.
Citizens at large, I mean, again, I'm all for making it, I mean, sometimes it gets a little unruly, but at least you get more ideas, and again, it broadens the support base if we ever get to that point. Because this is a huge project, if even part of it's big, and we need, and if it doesn't work, at least a lot of people were involved in saying we can't do it.
And once we marry the 2 chiefs, no divorce is coming.
Oh.
This is Massachusetts.
No,
Public safety can go
On a
together.
serious note, this is a very important project. It's one that we need to have everybody's support and back with a unifying voice. What has happened in the past with the Council on Aging and other things that didn't have the unified voice. Some of the people that were mainly involved in it were more negative than they were positive. So anything we do, we need to bring it together as a town.
Yes, present it in a unified way. I mean, if it doesn't succeed, at least everybody was, the effort was there and everybody was on the
And I
same
think
page.
it looks at the town as a whole.
Right.
And not just
It's
piecemeal.
not a council on aging building, it's a community building.
Right, as well. But there's a lot of things in play. I mean, we're gonna take a hard look at our recycling program. I don't know if that opens opportunities for other facilities. That's why I wanted to make this global and take a look at everything.
So we want to instruct Pam, I'm sorry, Charlie, send notices to all the department heads?
Yeah, a generic letter of...
You want to try to set a date for them to meet?
I think if you had a response by our next selectmen's meeting, at least we'd have some people to appoint to the committee at that point.
Yeah, at least to start it and get it organized and...
And the other question is, do you want to ask for volunteers from outside the department heads?
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure of that.
And of course, the building committee.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know, I couldn't remember if we mentioned them or not.
Well, it's all the
And I hope they don't take umbrage to this, so it isn't a slap at them, it's just trying to make it bigger.
Need a point of the spear.
So, yes, I'll follow your plan, contact the boards and departments.
No, I'm not hearing nothing. I'm not
You don't have
listening.
to.
I'm just
I will.
kidding.
And say if they're interested, get back in touch with you all by February 11th date.
And we can make Pam chairman.
Bite your tongue.
Get it done that way. I'll wait for Steve to get back so we can talk about the road project idea. Let's see, Memorial, if it's okay with the board, I'll get back to the other agenda items, not the agenda items, but the mail. Memorial Day, I wanted the board to, we did get a formal letter from Dave Walsh. And even if we hadn't gotten the letter, I was going to ask the board to formalize the conversation I had with him a couple of weeks ago. First was to establish a Memorial Day committee that also asked the parade organizers to have the military units march first in the parade. Also encourage those attending the observance to go with the honor guard when it marches across the street, and also to the memorial stone to hear the words of the chaplains. Encourage the committee to work with the elementary school to increase student awareness of veterans and foster more of a connection to the Memorial Day observances. And also, the VFW posted a request that its meetings be included in the rotation on the digital side of the fire station. That's easy enough to do. But on the rest, if the board would take a formal vote on the other matters.
So moved.
Second.
How large a committee would you want? And do you have any designated members that you'd want on the committee?
Well, a veterans agent, and one person needs to be on it, somebody from the VFW.
Would you like Steve Littlefield to be on it also?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
I think that's a
So
good
veterans
idea.
agent, Will Corey, Steve Littlefield, the assistant veterans agent, someone from the VFW post. Is there anybody else?
I didn't think of.
Well, then make it, what I would do is recommend making a committee of 5, so that if we have other individuals who wish to
They
serve
can-
on it,
right.
we have room, we'll
Okay.
publicize that.
Yeah.
And we'll notify all 3 gentlemen and say, please, that we're out looking for volunteers, but in the meantime, that they need to be, start out holding meetings and work from there.
Okay.
So if the board, so I heard a motion.
I
and
moved
second.
it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Steve, I don't know.
I haven't actually talked to Steve about it yet.
So, Gordon's a little bit about the idea that first we have the cost of the actual road projects, the big projects we're talking about, not the complete road reconstruction like we did for 36 bunch of years ago, but the normal paving work that we're doing is very high because of the prevailing wage law. And the question came up whether it made more sense for us to hire additional people here so that the labor costs at least would be lower, or even possibly, Gordon pointed out, it might make sense to go regional in a sense of to work, I won't say it's a formal district, but something, intermunicipal agreement, something that would allow us to band resources together with other communities to have a labor force go out from our respective departments and do the road work. again, not having to pay the employees, we have our own people. I mean, there are some downsides, then you have to find what they're doing the other time when they're not doing it, but we don't, until you take a look at it, you don't know whether it makes sense financially.
So you're like regionalizing, like a couple guys from our place?
No. Talking about adding staff.
Oh, adding staff to our.
So that instead of you bidding out the road reconstruction projects that we're talking about, we purchase the equipment and you add staff and you go do the work.
Right.
And talk about taking that core group that you build that knows how to pave and redo the roads, working with other communities and have them buy in or whatever that long-term process is. But instead of you spending $6 million every year trying to rebuild the roads, we come up with the money for the equipment, we come up with money for the labor, and we get the work done inside instead of bidding out.
That sounds good, but I don't know if that's feasible really with that. You're talking, paving crew has at least 5 or 6 guys just on one paving crew.
Yeah.
So you're saying hire
10 people.
Hire 10 people.
And then what are you gonna do with the rest of the year?
The idea is to look at whether or not, if you had that crew from May until November. No, the full time. But if you had that crew working from May to the first week in November, would we save money by having it internal versus you bidding it out? Because then you'd have control over when the projects get done and the quality of the projects. And the
I
idea.
have to look into it, but that sounds, I mean.
Even in the downtime, we could maybe find other things for them to do.
Because there's plenty of work.
The lake needs to be weeded.
Yeah.
And then you've got people available for plowing.
Yeah.
And,
No, I
and
mean,
more
I'll
vehicles
look
for
into
that
what
matter.
we're talking about. It sounds like a good plan, but I'm not sure how that would work.
I mean, theoretically, I'm not suggesting this. If you had them sitting for those months and doing nothing, you might still save money.
Right.
I'm not suggesting we do that, but
But
yeah, well, I know it because like everybody says, once you start getting to the state stuff, you're gonna have to pay the bail and wait.
Right. Of course, we'll have every union guy in the plans.
So that's another.
But the idea was to look at that, see if it made more sense to purchase the equipment, have a crew, and then look at regionalizing that district. So if you did catch up, or if the town couldn't support all that work, but you had the crew available from, August to November for another town to work on.
Yeah. And that's what makes it work.
So
if you can do that.
Right, because now you've got plenty of work. And of course, you're going to dog chasing its tail eventually. It's going to come back to roads that we did 5 years ago, you're going to do again,
But
10 years ago.
It's supposed to be 15 to 20 years.
Yeah, I'm just picking numbers here, but.
Well, just make everybody ride bicycles.
But the problem is we don't have enough money within the budget to go out and bond $6 million every 2 years.
Right.
To have the contractors come in and do, how many roads?
That really isn't, that was.
That's not even going to do it.
And then the 6 million is not, that's one road.
That was just the 4 roads.
Yeah.
Right, so.
And it could be more because like I said, those don't have any drainage on them. So we're gonna have to engineer before we could even.
So
that doesn't even count the bridges that we have.
Yeah, and then the bridges, just found out Hayward Street Bridge is getting bad now too, so.
So it was just an idea to look at whether or not it would save money, and if we worked with regionalizing to other communities, could we support the financial cost of doing it?
I'll look into that and see what.
Amy, you had something you want to
It
say?
would even be.
Oh, yeah, I was saying, I think this is a good idea. I was wondering, in the past, have we always hired out, or did we at one time have equipment that we did our own roads? Never?
No.
I don't know, the horse and buggies didn't destroy the roads as best as the cars have changed.
Yeah, I just remember when the road that I grew up on being shut down one time to be completely repaved, and I wondered if we did it in-house or if we had, so that was sent out.
No, like when we hire a small company when we do smaller jobs, and we try to do as much as we can because that's how we keep the cost down.
Yeah.
But that's the only time, we don't have the equipment to pave it ourselves.
Yeah, I meant back in the day, like
Yeah.
when we were growing up, I didn't know if they did it.
Yeah, no.
All of us are
That was
that
mostly
old.
the same.
We're not all that old, Amy.
We don't
We're all
even have a
guessing.
hot box anymore, right? The hot box.
We still have,
Oh, you still have the hot
another
box?
one, yeah.
Oh,
The
good.
other one died on us.
So the idea was to bring it up in the meeting and see whether or not there was any support
At
for
least-
it.
Yeah, at least
No, I'll
the
look into that. It
feasibility
does,
of
it
it.
sounds like it would be good, but even if you try to go to another town, is that union gonna fight us going into that town?
Well, if
That's the
the
problem.
union's not actually doing any paving, I wouldn't understand why a town union
Right.
would fight it, because they'd actually be growing.
Well, yeah, the idea being that, I'm making it up, we get 2 people from Halifax, you get 3 people from Kingston, 4 people from Pembroke, and you've got, maybe 1 person from Plimpton, you've got a work crew of 10 people. And so they're union people. They're not working for company X, they're working for the 4 towns.
I
They're
know
sharing
that-
the cost.
It's no different than having a police detail.
Right, they tried to
And
do
you have,
mutual aid
you have
with the
state
highway
police there,
before.
you have sheriff's department there, you have police department there, they all a union, and they all get paid.
Right, well, they did try doing the mutual aid between the highway departments. Everybody put up a list of what they had for equipment, and then it got to the point, I guess, right when they were gonna start it, well, if this breaks while you're using it, who's gonna pay
Who's
for
gonna
it?
pay for it?
Yeah,
If it was broken when you got it, you didn't know it was broken,
but if we're buying equipment specifically for this job, it's not taking any equipment off your,
right, that's what I mean, so it's a whole different,
right, different approach, yeah.
It's one way of looking at it.
Because it's not,
Sounds like a solution.
it's not affordable to borrow
Chief, is
$6 million.
No.
Chief,
like I said, I put that
Yes.
is
together.
there something else that you,
Well, we're going to,
We have executive session.
Yeah.
when you're gonna be there?
That's what they said.
he's an executive.
Yeah, so those numbers I came up with, I just went off of the prices that I got off the book and just put it all together, just so
Yep.
people get an idea of what it actually costs to work on a road.
Right, so when you brought all that together, I was spitballing with Charlie about what to do about outside the box things that we could look at, and this is what I came up with.
Well, just like the dirt road that I had.
Just make sure it's not raining outside the box when you're gonna.
Yeah, one of the things that, when I first got in, I talked to this one, he's an engineer, and I told him that I wanted to try all different things, because the stuff people are doing now, it's just like it goes around in circles,
Yeah,
it doesn't
right.
work. So I told him I wanted to try different things, and we sat there, we talked, and we figured out a way to try to do the dirt roads. And there's this thing called a zipper, and it's a grinder, it does asphalt or it does the dirt roads. It's got a water machine, it's got a tank, so we can put the stuff we put on a salt. It helps keep the dust down. And you can get shingles, asphalt shingles,
Yeah.
and
Right.
grind them up.
Yeah,
with
yeah.
cotton. I got 2 loads for free, and I tried it on a couple sections, but we didn't get to use the zipper because it costs money to get that, and I don't have it. So I just put it on top, and it actually helped, because a couple people on Palmer Mill said that it stayed better longer. So the stuff would work, it's just getting the money to get that machine.
And
to
a roller,
use.
Right. Well, I mean,
It's the same thing, I could grind our own roads, we can do so much a year, and then the small sections, we can pave ourselves. But we'd have to get another roll, a bigger roll, or we'd have to get more stuff, and then it,
I just think if you had a crew that was dedicated
right, I mean,
to
I got 4
paving,
guys,
then we
last
could,
summer, I had 2 guys almost half the summer.
I know.
Because somebody
You-
got hurt and 1 guy quit. So that's.
It's tough to get
puts you
work done.
behind right there, I'm behind it, because I can't do any job because you have 2 people. So,
I'll come down and talk
Okay.
with you more.
You guys all
but I
set?
do like that idea.
You're all set?
thanks, Steve.
Thanks. Have a
Thank
nice-
you.
Steve knows about Pine Street, obviously. I did ask him if at some point if we can get an update, because I don't know whether he's planning on bringing an article to town meeting for the additional funding.
Yeah, he did get some money up
Yeah, he
there.
got 500, but
It's not
over
enough.
$1 million, I
Yeah,
think, is
yeah.
the work, so, I sent him the latest copy of the inspection report and asked him,
What are you talking, $1.7 million to do a little bridge?
probably not $1.7 million, but a little less than that, but not much less.
No, it was right.
And then and as he mentioned, he now has Hayward, and he hasn't even gotten the engineering, even got an estimate, right, what the engineering cost was.
Well, worse than that, it's been downgraded, so it's even more critical, or he's gonna have to block the road.
Right.
And he doesn't wanna do that if he doesn't have to.
On the Andrews versus Halifax case on January 17th, the judge in the case denied the Andrews motion for a new trial or to amend the judgment in the case. Andrews or the party trust now will have 30 days to appeal the case to the higher court. We'll see what happens with that. Back taxes on owners and officers. Under the town's bylaws 183, the board, this is in relation to what we had done with the PEC, the Halifax Investments Country Club licenses. The board of selectmen may waive such denial, suspension, or revocation if it finds there's no direct or indirect business interest by the property owner, its officers or stockholders, etc., or members of the immediate family as defined under the general laws. There's also mention about officers under MGL Chapter 40, Section 57, which is the relevant chapter that we then voted the bylaw, Chapter 183. There is obviously, as we discussed a couple weeks ago, some intersection between the officers, owners and/or officers of the Peck Family Trust, R&J LLC, and the Halifax Investments. And I don't know whether the board wanted to start the revocation process again on that basis, or does it want me to consult with Attorney Mayo further? Did want to note that Joseph Peck paid down about $8,000 of the back taxes last week, and then also met with Panaducci about setting up a payment plan. She's talked with Robert Peck, I guess, on the phone today about paying the full amount owed by R&J, which is $56,000 now, including the May 2020 tax bills. But I didn't know whether the board wanted to do anything on the license revocation process.
How long would it take to go through that process?
The revocation process. Basically, we have to give at least 2 weeks' notice, so it would be on the 11th, we'd have to start, if we're going to have another hearing of money on February 25th.
How does that help us get the back tax money, I guess?
That was my thought.
You know, I mean, if he's willing to pay it and that happens, I don't have a problem. I don't want to see us revoke the license and just make it more difficult to
earn the money
to get hold. Yeah. I mean, they got other problems over there too with the fire. That still hasn't been resolved.
What is the back taxes on the other piece that's not being talked about being paid back?
Let's see what we got here. So what we have now, this is the latest table I got from Panaducci. So that includes that shows the amounts left after the $8,000 that was paid off. It doesn't show the amount if Robert Peck pays down the other amounts for the R&J properties, which is what he indicated to Pam that he was planning on doing. So if the R&J properties are paid down, what's left would be the back taxes on the Peck Family Trust properties, where John is listed as a trustee, and at least according to Joseph, there were a number of beneficiaries.
So have we talked to Pam yet? Whether or not she's got an agreement with them that?
Yes, I mean, there's no formal agreement yet. I think it's simply a matter of discussion that Joe was in to make an initial payment and then possibly set up a payment plan, but there's no payment plan in place yet. And then on Robert Peck, that conversation just happened today. I don't, we'll see whether he pays down the R&J amount.
Well, I think we can follow up at our next meeting and see where it's at. Postpone it until then. At least that's my thought.
Well, we gain nothing in the process. We don't lose anything.
So right now the Peck Trust is $44,563.
I don't see that's 44,000.
Is it this
The
total?
Peck Trust, I would say, is 14, 15, 20, 21 maybe, not including the taxes that are due in May. I'd say they were about 21,000.
Well, some of these were foreclosed.
No, I don't think so.
I'm looking at
Pine Street was.
the line, Charlie, which says AMT, and then the amount.
Yeah.
That's where I was getting the 44.
I don't see what.
Under Peck, comma, John Trustee,
Yeah.
the last line in that little subsection,
Just above Halifax Country Club.
see where it says AMT?
So I'm looking at two different things here. Sorry.
I started.
I don't know what the 44, I think that's a note. I don't, I know they don't know 44,000.
Okay.
So we've listed them under the individual properties. I don't know what that 44,000, I'm gonna have to talk to her about that.
Okay, that's where I was getting the number
Yeah,
from.
I understand where you're getting it from, but I don't, it doesn't seem to add up to anything.
But it's not
other-
gonna do anywhere.
So what we have before us is whether or not we want to just suspend this discussion at this time, see just how well the arrangements are made with Pamatucci. Because we can always bring it back.
Okay, so if they're on a payment plan by the next meeting, we can talk about it?
Well, whatever happens, we'll talk about it.
Yeah,
I'll put it
okay.
on the agenda for further
Right.
discussion 2 weeks. You'll get a report
Okay.
as to where things are going.
Okay.
Do you want a motion for that?
No, I'm fine. If you're not taking any action, which is sadly,
We don't need to do
there's nothing that needed to be done.
Fine.
Let's see, zoning bylaws on floodplain, that part of the zoning bylaw will need to be updated to include references to new floodplain maps, along with FEMA requirements, include a statement of purpose and a paragraph referencing the floodplain data. I'm working with the state to confirm which language is needed, and I'll bring this to the board, being the selectmen, on February 11th, for the board then to submit it to the planning board for the necessary public hearing, so we can get on the warrant for May. On the multifamily discussions, we had Attorney Amy Questle here last Tuesday, meeting with various town officials, continue to work on possible amendments to the sections of the bylaw. She's going to be back here on Tuesday, 18th at 7 p.m. with a proposed amendment that could be considered by the planning board at a public hearing in March. During the meeting last week, there was some discussion about Chapter 48, Section 5, which basically says you can't go back to town meeting again with the same bylaw if it was disapproved within the last 2 years. There are a few notes. There's nothing in the statute that prevents anyone, aside from the actual town meeting, from discussing possible bylaws within the 2 years after town meeting's acted unfavorably on a proposed zoning bylaw. So it's, whether it's a bunch of random citizens, whether it's a bunch of random town officials, even the selectmen or the planning board, they can discuss it all they want. It's town meeting, the limitation is limited to the town meeting considering it, not anybody else. The case that Gordon here mentioned in emails, Penn versus Barnstable, the court said in contrast, the court references Chapter 48, Section 5, 6th paragraph, which gives the municipal legislative body no role in deciding whether proposed ordinance or bylaw is the same as the one previously rejected. Ultimately, that's a question of law for the courts to decide. The case in Penn versus Barnstable was that the Barnstable town had voted unfavorably about establishing a sort of parking lot district. And the town council voted against it. Actually, it was 7-5. By that vote, they didn't get the 2/3. So a few months later, it was brought back to them. They did approve it. There have been a few changes, but the court said that those changes weren't sufficient to say that that was substantially different enough from the previous one, that they didn't have to wait. But in essence, the court said, yeah, you gotta wait 2 years. Of course, what was the fun part was, it had already been 2 years by the time the court made a decision. But the court said, well, we're gonna talk about this anyway, because it might come up again, not the parking lot, but the whole idea. So if there's an issue as to whether the bylaw is gonna be similar to the one that was voted against a couple of years ago, if town meeting passes a new proposed bylaw on multifamily housing, it's going to require an interested party to file suit against the town on the basis of that issue. Obviously, different people have different opinions about whether anything, if it's brought to town meeting, is different, but ultimately it would be the court making that decision, not any individual or the planning board or even town meeting for that matter. Silver Lake fiscal 21 budget, the budget hearing is on Thursday, February 13th at 6 p.m. at the high school. At least according to the newspaper article, I read 2 budgets were proposed. One was for a 3.84% increase, another at 3.34%, although the article said that Superintendent Black would raise the possibility of an overall 3% increase. With the minimal increase in school aid from the state, even that lower figure represents something like a 4.5% increase in the overall assessment, something that we probably can't afford unless we're going to forsake other budget priorities that we've been talking about, for instance, tonight, and just in general. I don't think anything's happened since that newspaper article has been published. Gordon, am I off? We gave out negotiations, which we're going to do in exec.
No, the only thing, I guess, to talk about in public would be to say that if you guys could attend the budget hearing that night, because I'll be wearing another hat.
I already thought about doing that.
Because the cherry sheet numbers came out, so for the last 2 days, I've been diving into those.
They couldn't wait until after Valentine's Day to hold this meeting?
No. So.
When is the meeting again?
February 13th.
Valentine's was last year.
Yes, I remember that. I won't be there. I'm leaving that day.
So there is a 350th net minimum contribution increase to Kingston and about a $54,000 increase for Halifax and a decrease of $18,000 for Plimpton. So that will, again, skew the assessment, and the change in the overall population will also skew the assessment. So it might be a case where Halifax number looks okay, but whether or not we can sustain that number for the long term is...
2 or 3 years from now, we're going to be one.
Yeah, it will skip back. So.
Thank you.
Complete Streets program, Steve just asked to pass over this. He'll be back in a couple weeks about that. We talked about the highway workforce project, just our own state aid that the governor's budget came out with a 72,000 increase in all aid minus the assessments, which it's better than I expected, let's put it that way. We'll see how it all plays out. And what I said to the finance committee is, certainly we can use that as the ceiling, the floor for our state aid number. The House and Senate never come back with a number that's less than the governor's, and at worst, it's going to be the same. I did write Senator Brady, Representative Lanaka, about the state budget because the whole problem of Silver Lake, and then I look at Brockton or I look at the city of Boston, and charter school systems are eating everybody's lunch. And we can't keep doing it this way for much longer, where the city of Boston now is paying out more to charter schools than it's actually getting from the state for Chapter 70. Town bank form from Martha Smith. She's interested in serving the council. I guess we'll probably I don't know whether you need to interview her, but at least we'll get a recommendation from the Council on Aging in time for the board's meeting on the 25th of February. Resource officers. Everybody wants a resource officer. Just whether we want.
So do we get rid of the motorcycle?
We want one and we're not paying for it.
Well, we'll pay for it.
We're getting somebody else to pay for it.
Well, okay, the high school right now, Kingston pays for it out of their own budget.
Yes.
Okay. The Silver Lake would like to see a middle school officer. They have one part-time by a contribution from Plimpton.
Yes.
They'd like to see contributions from both Plimpton and Halifax, but again, outside the school budget.
So a quick recommendation that I would have would be to put that school resource officer within the educational line of the budget. So add a subline and put the SRO right there, so it's not in the chief's budget, so he doesn't have to deal with it. It's within education, and it can be counted towards the net spending numbers towards the school.
Why are they so reluctant to not?
So we have been publicly said we're looking at cutting positions. So if we added it to the budget, would the towns be looking for us to cut even more to assume those positions?
Well, in essence, we would be, because if we're going to spend money one way, we can't spend money another way.
Yeah.
I got $5, you get $4.99.
Well, but the issue is right now Kingston's paying for the full-time out of their police budget.
Right,
So
And we were never trying to get out of paying for it. We just wanted it in the budget so everybody shared the cost.
There's not a full-time middle school officer.
No, it's 8 hours.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So they were looking
It might be somebody who's working full-time, but only a certain number of hours at middle school.
Right, so they were looking at making that position a 20-hour.
Yeah, like half,
So 8 from...
half an officer, half an officer.
So if you put it outside Silver Lake and outside the police budget, there's one way we can just handle it, because everyone has said that it's a need. Whether or not the board wants us, no, my Silver Lake hat, wants Silver Lake to make cuts to add that position to the budget is something that I don't think would pass at Silver Lake. So the recommendation is to put a subline in. I think it's, you remember the money amount?
You said 13?
$13,000, and just have the officer there.
But the problem is, fine, let's say we spend 13, we're not spending 13 on something else.
I understand, and I understand it's an increase in spending. I think we would end up paying more if you put Kingston's full-time officer into the budget with the half-time and doing the municipal agreement from Silver Lake to Kingston. The town ends up paying more. So.
But should we in fact be paying for the person at the high school?
Well, I would think so. So, I believe we have publicly stated we're looking at cutting positions. I don't know if the support would be there to cut even more to put that in, or would the town see that as a level service with a 12-hour increase to cover the position and hold the school harmless to that amount.
What you're saying is to put it in a new line item, which isn't going to be voted on a line item basis.
It would be voted on by the town of Halifax on a line item basis. It would be just like an article.
Okay, all right.
So making up
Wait a minute, I thought they just picked one block, one solid amount.
That's why I asked.
It would make it like it's an article.
So you would separate it out.
Article, in fact.
Right.
There's an article on the warrant for Silver Lake to fund the middle school.
Because normally what they do is
I
they
think we leave it on an
don't break
article.
it down for us from the school budget. You just give one figure. At town meeting, I've never seen them break it out.
So so it's broken out for Plimpton, it would be broken out for Halifax, and it's broken out for Kingston because it has it within their police budget, the separate line broken out.
Okay.
It was just a solution to the problem, and that's all I was trying to accomplish.
As long as it can be voted on individually or separately, whatever way you want to describe it, and it's presented that way, I want town meeting to have the option of voting it, that's all.
Richard Will, there's an article on the warrant for this. I'm not necessarily in favor of doing it, not setting aside the policy, I just don't like the financing of it. Those are my 2 cents.
What's gonna happen if we vote against it?
Then we'll have the same situation we have right now, which is that you have an officer at the middle school for a few hours per week based on their contribution from Plimpton.
So what's the current agreement with them? Like Gordon said, if we have to start picking up the full-time for whatever reason, what's the agreement we have right now with the school, with the 3 towns?
So
Per pupil.
Well, so right now the cost for the town of Kingston said that they would cover the cost of the officer at the high school.
For what though? Just like out of the kindness of their own heart, or?
Well, they thought they should have an officer at the high school.
I agree.
So, because of some of the issues that I've been made aware of as a school committee member, I can see the need for having an officer at the middle school. Because you really can't, if both schools are coming in basically at the exact same time, if there's issues, the issues happen usually when the kids come in or when the kids leave. So you can't have an officer in both places.
Just to be clear, the town was, or at least the officials, were never opposed to the resource officer. It was opposed to the way it was being paid for. And we were willing at that time to take our share of the cost for the high school. We weren't trying to avoid it. We just thought it should be in the Silver Lake budget and we pay for it accordingly with the percentage breakdown. I mean, how we divvy up the budget, the assessment.
One more line item that we had to deal with.
Right.
I just didn't want to leave the impression we were trying to get out of it.
I
We
guess
just,
my question is, if the town votes against this, will Kingston turn around and ask us to pay for part of the full-time officer too?
no.
Or that will never come back to be that?
It made something.
I won't say never, you never get to say never, but certainly this coming fiscal year, no, because if they were going to try and do that, they'd have to do it as part of the discussion of the budget, about the budget right now.
Right.
I could just see them getting aggravated with
No, they actually.
No, because actually at the last meeting last year, we offered, like what Gordon said, to take our share. And they said, no, we'll take care of the full-time, we just want Halifax to contribute to the half officer at the middle school. And town meeting voted no, it was close. But
And they didn't pull out.
Yeah, so now, right now, they brought in another SRO, who's a Kingston police officer. And I wanna say, he's there between 8 to 10 hours, because I think the goal was to make it 20 hours, so I think he's doing half. So 10 hours a week. And I attend their meetings every month, and obviously, there is a need. I mean, if, in a perfect world, I'd love to have an officer in every school. To start really young and then transition to the middle school and then the high school. It's just
I think it's different for him. When we grew up, we had the DARE officers around, and I still remember mine, just to have the figure and have people, and the kids should grow up seeing figures like that and respecting them and knowing that they're there to help, not anything else. But we have a resource officer at the elementary right now sometimes too, a female, right?
Yes, she's a school safety officer. One of my goals is that she's been nationally certified to become, so she's all the training to be an SRO, so we're going to change her title to an SRO. She's a member of my staff, so I can only place her at the elementary school during the day when she has some free time. I'd love to have her there on a full-time basis. That's one of the things that I want to address with the board, because there is a federal grant out there for additional police, to hire police, and one of the specific parts of the program would be for an SRO. So that would be something that we discuss with the board, to be able to apply for that grant. I mean, we could hopefully get it, maybe not get it, but that's one of the goals to have. I mean, this year we were fortunate, she was in there a lot more than normally, because she was on administrative duty due to the pregnancy. So she was in there a lot,
Well, I mean, when you just look at the staffing as the town as a whole, we haven't grown the highway, we haven't grown the police, we haven't really grown here.
Because I wanted to see what the staffing levels were for Halifax, and it was shocking that nothing hasn't gone up since 1995. It stayed at the 11.
Yeah, the thing is, most years we never got to.
I was gonna say.
Population's gone up and whatever, that's for my.
But I also know it's been far longer since then that we've even had an increase in the highway.
Really?
I'm not saying that we don't need the increase, but I'm also, highway, even, I don't know if it's probably.
It's been over 30 years.
I believe it.
So there's just all these issues within the town to try to understand, and our taxes are extremely high, and
they're not going to get lower, they're going to just get higher, but we have needs, and balancing it is the problem.
So I mean, one of the reasons to have the chief here for the discussion about the resource officers was, even with the federal grant, just like when we went into the federal grant program in the mid-90s, and we eventually had additional officers from that, we then, 2 or 3 years later, had to take on the full cost.
Correct.
So and there are obligations under the grant that after the federal funding ends, you've got to keep that person on for
3 years. Well, the grant program is for 3 years, so they'll fund it for 3 years up to 125,000, and then the town's got to kick in 25% of the salary and benefits and all that.
do you know what the length of term is that you have to, like Charlie was saying, how long does that position have to stay after the grant ends?
I thought I brought it with me, but I printed it up. I have that information in my office. I want to say, I don't think
There's no exit time.
Right, there is no exit time, on this one. I don't think.
So if there isn't, I would move to have you apply for the grant and have somebody go on.
I can double check tomorrow.
Yeah, because when last time we had that, we had to hire police officers after the 3-year term was over.
Yeah, that was part of the condition.
That was part of the condition of getting the grant in the first place.
Right, but yeah, you have to take him into your expense account, into your but I don't know if there's a, if you have to make, you know.
Well, that's what we had to do with the previous.
I don't remember seeing
25 years
anything
ago.
that says that you gotta keep them for X number. of
Right, I don't
years.
think so either, right, correct.
Because my point on this was to say, even, you know, if we're making the commitment, then we know, you know, we need to be saying 3 years from now, we're keeping this person.
Right.
Setting aside the unemployment or anything, the whole idea is if we need this position, federal grant or no federal grant, we should be hiring that additional person. The federal grant is going to be the gravy. It's going to be very nice to have during the next 3 years, but we also know it's going to end at some point, and then we're going to be fully on the hook for it, which will be fine because we've made that decision to make that commitment, which is great. But as we all just were talking about, you know, if we've got the limited pot of money and we're trying to do 15 different things, just, you know, even with Silver Lake, to say, you know, as I mentioned, if we're funding, you know, if Silver Lake comes in and says we want a 4% increase in this town's assessment, I can't afford that given everything else, unless that's the priority we've given to say, we're saying no to a lot more other people and saying yes to Silver Lake. It's, you know, it's doable, but you gotta make that choice, and the same thing regarding a police officer.
What is it now, Silver Lake budget is what, 55, 60% of our budget, overall budget?
No, Silver Lake's about 25 or 20%.
Yeah, it's about 58%
I think
or
schools in
60.
general,
Well, the schools.
With schools,
Yeah.
Schools combined about 50 something.
It's close to 60 when you
Yeah.
add in.
And the debts and everything
Right.
else like that.
But I mean, the
Everybody
state,
put kids through school, nobody's begrudging
Right.
the schools. It's just that it's growing at such a rate that, to Gordon's point earlier, we can't sustain it
You
over
got
the
Gordon
course
made
of
this
time.
point for a number of years.
Yeah.
On the finance committee.
Give them all the credit for that.
every year.
You know, John Creed was there also, and that, you know, it's compound interest. If you keep increasing at 2.5% to 3% for the salaries every year versus 2%, okay, it doesn't seem much more in any given year,
But it adds up.
yeah, and that's where we are now.
And it doesn't do you any good if half the people in town can't live in town anymore.
I guess is there,
I think if you can find out that information and then have a discussion with everyone, I think that would be, have the school committee in.
Yeah, I have until March 11th to apply, so, you know, so I basically need some direction from the board. If they want me to apply, I can go ahead and do that. And, but I'll look at some of the, I printed it all today, some of the.
Get the details and, I mean, apply for it. There's no downside
Okay.
to applying for it.
You can always refuse it.
Right, exactly.
so if it's okay, I'm sorry, we still got a couple of other
Yeah.
correspondence stuff.
Sorry to keep you up so late.
Fire.
Another budget problem.
Fire department did get 2 SAFE grants. One was, these are 2 different acronyms. This is $3,965 for the student awareness for fire education, and also one for $2,348 for senior awareness of fire education.
So is that senior in high school or senior?
I suspect it's the 65 and over group. So congratulations to the chief on that.
Kudos.
Mr. Harrison, our unregistered vehicle sitting in the middle of the field with a fence over it, car fame, did pay the bylaw fine, so the hearing was canceled. He's now living in Tennessee and wrote that he was having problems finding a storage facility. He also mentioned getting it insured, but there's nothing in the town's bylaw about getting the vehicles insured. I recommend that that the board give Mr. Harrison until March 1 to remove the vehicle and I can check on CubeSmart here in Halifax, as he said, you know, and it's nice, it's 2020, I can look it up and they can tell me how many vacancies they've got. They got no vehicle vacancies there, but they've got vehicle vacancies in Taunton and Brockton. So I'm going to, if the board will give permission, we can hold off until March 1st, and we'll start the process again, but I'll notify them, hey, if you can't find it in Halifax, you need to contact Taunton and Brockton and get the vehicle moved over there.
That's the best move we can make at this time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Joy Blackwood sent a very nice thank you letter to
Chair.
to the chair, but naming a number of town officials, thanking them for all the work they've done working with her and the Silver Lake Regional School System. during her years as superintendent. She's officially ending, I guess, is it January?
January 31st, I thought.
I've still been writing her as superintendent. I'll still remember to write Jill as superintendent on February 1st.
Would it be okay if we sent a letter to her, thanking her for her service as superintendent?
That's excellent.
Sure, why not?
Pam, would you mind writing that letter and I'll come in and sign it tomorrow?
And hand deliver.
I don't know if it's gonna be tomorrow.
Thank you for your service.
Well, it needs to be done by the 31st.
Oh, okay.
Tomorrow's the 29th.
Did they already do something for her? Are they-
So,
Or are we supposed to go into executive session about that?
they did have an event and it was, there was made mention that not everyone was invited, that they would have thought, so.
Okay.
I guess it was a smaller event than possibly it could have been.
Okay. Solar field home rule legislation, Attorney Mayo can draft slightly different wording from the Mattapoisett one. He thinks that some of the references in the Mattapoisett actually are incorrect legal references.
Yeah, well, that's why I said we needed to be reviewed.
So if the board wants to, he can draw that up and we can get it prepared for town meeting.
I would make that motion.
Yeah, I second it wholeheartedly. I thought it was a great idea when I saw it.
Aye.
Aye.
We already dealt with the vacancy on the planning board cultural council. I'm recommending that Brian Kling be appointed to the cultural council for a term expiring January 28th of 2023. The board's aware of Mr. King already since he serves as the town's animal inspector.
Great guy.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And congratulations to this chief. You got your traffic enforcement grant of, I think it's $7,500. And the
Congratulations.
Thank you.
there's a form for.
There's 8 pages for Troy to sign.
Well, thankfully, it's only one place. They only get the forms they gave me, or only one form, one place. So if the board would authorize Troy to sign, but you need to use, I don't know if you have a blue pen around. They were very insistent on having a blue pen. So if you get a blue pen for Troy to sign.
Right here?
Yes, but don't sign yet.
That's black.
I have black, couple behind.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Is that
Okay,
blue?
I have some.
Yes, please.
Is that blue? That's blue.
Yeah, it's black.
There you go.
I don't understand. What's wrong with black?
Okay,
Son of a gun.
all right.
Wow, fancy.
Not really.
And then,
As she stands over me to make sure.
Make sure she gets it back, yeah.
Okay, so who authorized Troy? Yeah,
A
yeah.
pen
So
spelled.
moved.
Okay,
Second.
Andrews.
All in favor, aye.
Oh my God.
and the town is so broke that we couldn't even afford a blue pen.
You know. you do-
Little Free Library, I think John Sexton, who's with the Wolf Club Scout, then of Halifax BSA Pack 239's proposed a Little Free Library to be installed by the parking lot of Bond Field near the police station. It's not one of those big container boxes that are sitting like across the, I've seen these in various locations. Yeah, usually it's on a pole, looks like a little house,
It's
it
the size
has a
of a-
collection of books, and basically it's sort of like a drop one off, take one type of situation. I think probably the best thing, if the board would be okay with this, is have them actually come in on the 11th. I don't think it's some big project, on the other hand.
Just to look at it and
To
have it.
look at it and have some
embedded a little bit.
publicity and such, if that's okay with the board.
Well, I'd like them to come in just to find out who's gonna maintain the boxes and
Yeah.
everything's gonna
Then
change.
also, I don't know if the police chief would have any comments.
Some people
Right now,
have more than-
Feel free to the nearest building to it.
Yeah, just, yeah, right, yeah. Just-
Census confirmed boundaries, if the board would vote to have, and he does not need to use a blue pen for this, have Troy confirm that the boundaries of the town have not changed. This is to do with Census 2020.
So moved.
There's been no erosion?
There's erosion I can't claim, but the boundaries haven't moved.
The lines still don't close, but the boundaries haven't moved.
So moved. You moved it? Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
On 92 Lincoln Street, Ann Briggs, who lives at 94 Lincoln Street, called to say that she had returned home this past week and received the letter that I'd sent out to her, not specifying that the vehicles that were on 92 were hers, but just pointing out that maybe they were. She just said she didn't realize the town had foreclosed on the property and thought her sister still owned it. because it's been 14 months since we foreclosed on it. She likes some time to remove the vehicles her family owns, and she'll report back to the board by the 11th. So I said to her, you know, give me something to get back to the board in 2 weeks, and we'll just continue this on.
On that, I found the owner of the boat. It's a Hanson resident. The boat is expired since 2004. She says, I don't no longer own that boat. I think what happened was, about 5 years ago, a young man who was doing her landscaping said, oh, it's a pretty cool boat. She goes, take it away. So somehow it ended up at Lincoln Street.
Yeah, with everything else.
Yeah, and then talking to Teddy,
Yeah.
it so happens that one of the residents' son might have been a landscaper at some time. So she's like, I don't own the boat, you can do whatever you want with the boat.
Right.
So I have her information in case we need her. She's living in Hanson.
Okay, so let me, I'll better contact the Driggs again, just to say that it may have been one of their family
Son.
members who, right, but that, and then at the same time, I'll talk to Larry and find out, okay, what's the process for us to legally, so that.
Go on somebody else's, we own the property at this
Yeah.
point.
Right. I just,
So
you know,
so I don't know, I don't see what it is
I
as
would
a
think
problem.
just-
Well, we've got liability too, if
Town's gonna
somebody
incur
gets hurt on
the
that.
cost of removing the vehicles,
Yeah,
fill those vehicles up.
and the town has liability.
Right.
Right, yeah.
Then on the NIPS deposit legislation, our hearing on the bill was held last week. I did send out a legislative delegation of note to them, along with the members of the committees who were holding the hearing, reiterating the board's support for the 5-cent deposit. So we'll see what happens with that. I mean, I'm encouraged that they held the hearing, that there were a number of people who were participating in the hearing. We'll see if it goes anyway. The package store owners were saying it's an alcoholism problem. That's what, well, yeah, and.
So they don't sell them?
It's an alcoholic problem, they throw them out the window. Yeah, but you're selling them to them every day, every time you come in the door.
Did I miss anything?
No.
Is anybody here for anything else besides the police chief?
Personally, I think that we ought to go to the liquor store and everybody that buys a drink, take their fingerprint somewhere, we find one of nips on the side of the road. We know who they belong to.
So we've already talked a little bit about, enough so on the possible property for sale sometime in the future as part of this, so I'm not going to ask the board to go into executive session on that. However, we do need to go into executive session to discuss with the police chief the upcoming negotiations with the patrol officers and the sergeants. Also, Gordon had asked that we discuss Silver Lake Union negotiations during executive session.
Yeah.
All these discussions, if we're held in public session, would be detrimental to the town's negotiating position. Therefore, I'm asking that the board hold executive session all three. We're not going to go back into public session after all this. We're not making any announcements about these matters after our meeting.
Move it.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.